All right. Welcome to the PFF live watch along, the second version of this watch along. This is the last game of Super Wild Card weekend. We get the first ever game on NFL playoffs on Martin Luther King Day on Monday. This is the first ever playoff game ever played in SoFi Stadium for the Los Angeles Rams. I'm Eric Eager. I'm joined here by Ben Brown. Ben, how's it going as we're approaching kickoff here with Matt Gay, at the 35 for the Los Angeles Rams?
I mean, yeah, you love to see it. Obviously, we've had pretty interesting, I would say, wild card weekend. But I do think this is going to be. I know I said yesterday, Cowboys, 49ers. I thought was going to be the game of the week, but I definitely believe that this one is going to be a nice back and forth matchup. And we have seen, the spread kind of move in that direction. A lot of places are now printing Arizona Cardinals, +3 here as we move toward kickoff. So I definitely think this is going to be a pretty tight one. I'm excited for this matchup here.
Yeah, so Ben and I, just like yesterday, we ended up with, we were on some bets early on before the game started. And we're going to bet against each other. We're going to bet against the sportsbook as these live lines come in. Let's go ahead and look at where Ben Brown was before today's game as the Rams approach the kickoff here. Ben was on Cooper Kupp. Over 7.5 receptions. You got a great number there at +100. Stafford over 1.5 rushing yards. Again, a good number at +100. We had Wesley over 23.5 receiving yards. Stafford over 1.5 interceptions. He's going to be against me on this one at -125. And then a same game parlay. Stafford over 23.5 completions. Kupp over 106.5 receiving yards, and Wesley over 23.5 receiving yards. Ben, did you not learn from yesterday that you can't have a straight bet here on a parlay, on a prop, and also have that thing in your parlay? Because if one of them loses, then two of them lose, Ben.
I mean, you know what type of gambler I am, right? I obviously like to press my luck. I do think you got to get your best bets involved, as many options as you possibly can, and that's what I'm doing with my same game parlay. I've done it all season. It's worked out, fairly well for me. I would say at least, in these island game type matchups. So I'm doubling down here. I do like Antoine Wesley. I like the matchup quite a bit. I do think that AJ Green is going to see a lot. He's going to see basically a lot of Jalen Ramsey, and I do think that Antoine Wesley is going to kind of be the key outside of Zach Ertz to this, Arizona Cardinals pass attack. Yeah. So I like that one quite a bit. Obviously, I think everybody and their brother is on Cooper Kupp right now. I got his receptions, receiving yards. Both of those are heavily correlated. Only one of those is in my same game parlay. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I only took Matthew Stafford's overs as well, over interceptions, because somebody had to be on the opposite end of you. And I do think, getting some Stafford fans here, we're going to have Taige Seth on a little bit later. We got to get some feedback. And I'm wondering when you actually expect Matthew Stafford to potentially throw that first interception.
So let's reset a little bit here. On first down, Chase Edmonds, who started at running back in place of the injured James Conner, ran for 2 yards. Then Kyler Murray threw a tight end screen, and the tight end ran away from his blocks and gained just 2 yards. And then on 3rd and 6, he incomplete deep right to the dusty AJ Green. Bengals fans, two Bengals fans are great producers here. Ty and Mike will love the fact that AJ Green has left and it does not look like a Hall of Famer anymore since leaving the great Queen City here. So the Cardinals are going to go 3 and out, 13:58 left. Let's go to my bets here for this game. I got ahead of this thing early. Me and PFF George on the PFF forecast, we like to bet games early in the week when the numbers, hopefully we get numbers that are a little bit better here. But I have basically a unit and a half on Cardinals +4.5. It ended up closing 3, so look, I feel really smart here. Stafford, but that was different than yesterday where I had some San Francisco that closed weaker than when I bet it. Stafford under 0.5 interceptions. I have that at -105. Stafford over 274.5 passing yards at -110. And then I have over 10 first quarter points at +105. That does not look good, Ben.
It doesn't look good at all. It doesn't look good at all. We are seeing, already some decent line movement in the 49ers direction after that, 3 and out situation from the Arizona Cardinals. We do see at FanDuel -4.5 for Los Angeles Rams. We also basically have, similar numbers across DraftKings and Caesars. So that closing line value that we speak of disappeared here relatively quickly, but we'll see. I do think we need to see, some sort of Matthew Stafford, some quick hits here happening early on, especially to Cooper Kupp. We'll see how well that actually. I think we got a big play already. If you want to,
we
run
have
that
the
big
reason.
Play, maybe an injury. Is that already happening right now?
Yeah, Whitworth is out Whitworth got injured on the play, but it was a play where starting running back for the Los Angeles Rams, Sony Michel, showed the entire world why the New England Patriots used a first-round pick on him in the 2018 draft, and then why the Los Angeles Rams, after a Cam Akers injury, spent a fourth-round pick to trade for him. He went for 35 yards to the good. If you had a Cam Akers over, I believe that number was somewhere around 60 and a half. You're looking pretty good here, although we said the same thing about Elijah Mitchell yesterday for the San Francisco 49ers, and that wasn't necessarily the greatest thing in the world. Let's go ahead and pull up, because we're talking about the tools at PFF and what you can have with an Elite and an Edge subscription. Let's go ahead and look at our props tool for a second, just to see sort of what the offerings can be for you in a pregame situation. And then as we're sort of working through here, so if you go up to the that's what green line looks like. That's what in-game looks like. As Ben said, that number live is 5.5. If you go to betting and you go down to player props, you can look at these games, various like AJ Green under 3.5 catches. That's looking pretty good so far. We showed an edge on that. We don't show an edge on, for example, Wesley over 23.5 yards, even though Ben liked that number. For example, Chase Edmonds over 60.5 rushing yards. We showed a little bit better than zero edge there on that. You can sort these by the bet type. You can sort them by the team type. You can sort them by the edge, but that's a tool that you have at your disposal at pff.com as a part of your Elite subscription if you want it as well. You also get the simulation results, which will be updated tomorrow after this game. You also get Greenline, which will have all 4 games for the divisional round updated tomorrow. So as we reset here, the false start by the Los Angeles Rams backs them up 2nd and 10 at the Arizona 45. There's already a catch by Cooper Kupp. So those of you that are on his over receptions prop, you're already, you're one already there. For those of you that are Stafford yardage prop, you see another run here to Sony Michel. So it's going to be 3rd and 10 at the Arizona 45. No gain for Sony Michel. Let's go ahead and look as we have people, yesterday, it takes a little bit of time for people to get into the stream. Let's go ahead and look at some of the YouTube comments. If you do come and watch us on YouTube, we will, talk frequently to the members who are sort of commenting here. Hell yeah, over interception. See, I seem to be a Daniel here, standing alone on the no interceptions here. Stafford already takes a sack on the first drive of the game. That is Marcus Golden who takes down Stafford. So both teams, to the chagrin of my over 10 first quarter points prop, both teams go not 3 and out. The Rams got a first down. But both teams struggle here. There's some people here we had from yesterday. Austin Gayle, he's getting his right leg looked at on the sideline. Joseph Noteboom is in to replace him. Joseph Noteboom, a former starter for the Rams, now a backup, but now in for Whitworth. Austin reportedly says that injury looks bad. That's not a great start for the Los Angeles Rams in their all-in season. Ben, what did you think, by the way? Let's take a step back, not talk about betting so much for a second here. When you looked at what the Rams did, right, trading all those picks and Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, trading, for Von Miller in the middle of the season, basically, and trading a draft pick for Sony Michel, trading, going in and getting Odell Beckham Jr. Now that's a low stakes gamble as well. The Twitter, account for the Los Angeles Rams having the John Malkovich, we're all in situation. We all know how the end of rounders worked actually. So I don't know why that tweet happened. But what do you think of this Rams team? Very top heavy. But obviously injuries can topple a team that concentrates a lot of their talent in just a few positions.
Yeah, and it is interesting, right? Because if you would kind of try and classify one team as being at least an outlier from the injury standpoint, it has been the Los Angeles Rams for the past 2 and 3 years. So maybe they have some sort of exercise science, analytics type of situation where they think they can maybe beat expectation. I know they obviously give veterans the day off early in the week on all their practice times on Wednesdays. So maybe they think they can maybe stay ahead of the curve as far as injuries. And if you do think that, there are probably probably some reasons to press your luck, to be a little bit more top heavy, but I'm not sure that they necessarily went all in on the right guys in a lot of situations. I do think, defensively with Von Miller, I don't know if I love that play. I do think the Odell Beckham Jr., like you said, a little bit more of a low stakes option, especially with Robert Woods going down. But the overall makeup with Matthew Stafford, it's just going to be really tough to get through the NFC in its current state right now. So I don't know if this was the correct year to kind of try and go all in what looks like maybe a little bit of a desperation play for the Los Angeles Rams. So I don't know. What is your takeaway? I mean, they only got basically the fourth best seed in the NFC after going all in. That can't really speak too well to their overall outlook right now, right?
Yeah, it wasn't great. I mean, and they're going to have to go basically on the road at least once, probably twice, to go to the Super Bowl. And, even then, teams, it's just really hard. It's a tough gamble to say we're going to win the Super Bowl this one particular year. And, they did. A lot of what they did worked, like Jalen Ramsey, Cooper Kupp, and I'm blanking on the last one. Aaron Donald, obviously, are three of the top 6 most valuable players in the NFL that aren't quarterbacks. And so, again, it sort of worked, but then you look at the rest of the roster and they're sort of missing something. Let's reset here. So LA Rams now are DraftKings here, they're -4, -115, total on the game 46 right now. If you look at FanDuel, it's more a -3.5 situation, total on the game 46. We talked about this yesterday in the game where, if you're looking at some of these markets live, as the game progresses, these games are going to concentrate more and more on specific points. You're not quite there yet, but there still might be opportunity to sort of bunch up probability on particular point spreads here. Kyler Murray on first down, negative 1 yard gain on a run. So those of you that took his rushing prop are going to be looking for, I would say, longer. You're basically going to need for him to bust a big one. I don't think he's going to have that many rushing attempts or be all that good on those rushing attempts today here. Incomplete to Christian Kirk. I think they really miss DeAndre Hopkins here, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, this is bad, right? We have kind of known it to a decent extent that they were going to miss DeAndre Hopkins at that X receiver, but they have not looked great. I did think that was probably the one reason why you should be on Kyler Murray to potentially go over his rushing yards, because there doesn't seem to be any sort of capability of actually separating downfield. Obviously, AJ Green had one deep shot, not really getting open, Christian Kirk as well. So I don't know. I'm looking more so at the total, which is, sitting around 46, 45.5, basically 3 points less than, where we started at pre-flop here, 3.5 points in some spots. I mean, have you seen anything offensively outside of one Sony Michel first down run where you think that these teams are actually going to be able to score offensively, or what? Because I think that might be, a decent early look here based on how choppy this game has been to start.
Yeah, Murray had 2 open receivers deep, threw it right in half, basically equidistant from both of them, incomplete here. They're going to have to punt, and as such, this number is moving 2 points different now. The total hasn't changed because I think most people, when a team is backed up, that's pretty good for the under. Once they go 3 and out, it goes back to being actually a decent play for the over, because a team like the Rams, and they're fielding this punt here at the 41, could end up with pretty good field position, and it was a pretty good return out to the 49. So the Rams are right back out to midfield, basically, to start this drive, and not a lot of time. So Arizona's gone. This is very similar to that Kansas City-Pittsburgh game where we had 7 possessions in the first quarter, and neither team could do anything. We're at 9:55 left in the first quarter, still plenty of time. We've already seen 3 possessions for both, 2 possessions for the Cardinals, 1 possession for the Rams. Man, this is one here where let's sort of think. Let's actually pull up the DraftKings, drive result bet. Let's see if we can get a little bit of our first bet in here. I do think the Rams are going to score on this possession. They were moving it a little bit here. I kind of want to see what that number looks like and see if we can go ahead and bet it. So if we could pull that up, the DraftKings market that has the.
So here's one for you, Eric. I mean, they do have total first quarter points over 7, -110 right now. I think if you're, maybe looking at some points happening here, that isn't a terrible bet, like you said.
Okay,
we've only had 5 minutes basically come off the clock right now.
I'm going to double down I'm going to double down on my first one. I'm going to take, not quite double down. I'll take half a unit on over 7, -110. I think we at least pushed that in the first quarter here. I know the Rams sputtered at the end of the first drive. It does look like Yeah, gotcha. So we are going to sort of see Andrew Whitworth come back. We had sort of conflicting reports. He does look healthy, so he will come back. I do think we're going to see some success here by the Rams. Also, Matt Gay. You think about like extra point nonsense here, right? Matt Gay's been a great kicker this year for the Los Angeles Rams. I don't see him missing an extra point, but I could have just mushed it. So I'm going to take for half a unit over 7 first quarter points. I'm going to write that into the document here. I'm going to go bet it, and then we're going to see if it has a chance here.
It always has a chance, Eric. It always has a chance. Don't say it's only got a chance. I mean, Eric is betting on his birthday right now, ladies and gentlemen. So I do think if anyone's going to run good here, outside of birthday good luck, I think there's only one other that is actually a little bit better. It's probably like having a kid good luck or something like that. Maybe marriage day good luck or something. But birthday, I feel like a pretty good night is coming from Eric Eager, specifically the doctor in the building.
Stafford has yet to throw an interception, fellas, and the Cardinals are covering 4.5. So you can't do much worse than or much better than that. I guess here. Let's go ahead and throw up the DraftKings will the Rams score on this possession here. Notice here the second LA Rams drive result. Touchdown is plus 120, field goal is plus 225. Now it's grayed out so that you can actually bet this right now. And it looks like touchdowns now moved to a favorite at minus 115. That was a big
play. There's a big play happening.
So there must be, so you have Odell Beckham Jr. for 17 yards. So you are currently at the Arizona 35. We're going to revisit these markets. I think relatively frequently throughout the day. You do have to, with live betting, make sure that you sort of front run this. Now, minus 115 doesn't seem so bad, and essentially it's the same bet that I made with a little bit more juice. That for over 7, I mean you have the push probability that you don't have to worry about with the over 7 there. But that's the Rams here are favored now to score a touchdown on this drive from the Arizona 35. Beckham Jr. has had, I would say, I don't think he's been like a world beater here, but I would say that he's had a pretty good Rams career so far after coming over from Cleveland, where he was, for basically 3 years unimpressive.
That's an early Cam Akers touch, I would say. I would not have expected that. Basically, 3 carries into the game. That is kind of interesting. I'm wondering what his rushing yardage prop numbers have done basically on FanDuel.
Yeah, so we could pull that up on FanDuel here if you want to look at the rushing yardage prop. You have live props. We talked about this yesterday. If you want to look at some of these, passing props, receiving props, rushing props, sometimes they will gray out when the other team is on the field. One of the things that we might want to bet into, Ben, James Conner active for this game. He has not played yet, I don't think, or he has not gotten a carry.
He's not got a touch yet, basically.
Yeah,
right?
So like that voids if he doesn't get a touch. But if he's going to be used sparingly, I think 34.5 might be a good look there. Murray at still 34.5. Chase Edmonds 28.5. That might be one to look at. Rams do have a good run defense. They gave up less than 4 yards a carry this year, but they sort of invite the run too, right? So and Edmonds did start the game. In theory, he might get more carries. So that's a market to look at. And now it's grayed out because the Rams could be up to something here. Akers for 2 yards. It's 3rd and 1 now at the Arizona 26.
That's it. I mean, I do think the Akers usage is really interesting right away, right? So I do like that bit quite a bit. I think, we almost need to bring like Nathan Yonke on here one of these in the second or third quarter, get some updated usage numbers here early on to see if James Conner actually is involved or not. Because I would also like to hit some James Conner's unders if that is actually the case. I wasn't tracking him really closely on those.
Guys, we have an update to a bet here. Stafford up the middle for 1 yard on a sneak. He is now a half a yard away from young Ben here's rushing prop. Now, we need him to scamper a little bit for 5 or 6 yards to avoid the kneel down, nonsense at the end of the game. But he does have
never want to see the kneel down situation.
He does have a yard rushing. It is 1st and 10 from the Arizona 25 here, and Stafford is handing to Akers. Akers is explosive. Now,
he looks good, man. That's what I'm saying. This has been
I
would maybe honestly, because I know you don't want to hear this right now, but there is a lot of scenarios where Sean McVay actually just rides the hot hand here, right? If Cam Akers kind of coming in, obviously Sony Michel had 35-yard run to start, but Akers looking pretty spry here. I do think
that that play was called back with a hold.
The Cardinals' run defense has been a disaster here lately. So
yeah, that play was called back with a holding penalty and kind of right at the point of attack with Edwards there. So it is going to be 1st and 19, which again, if you have the Stafford passing yardage prop, you're feeling pretty good now because he's got more area of the field to have to throw to. If you are, sort of again of the over 7, over 10 first quarter persuasion, you're maybe not quite as happy with that. But Stafford, it does get 1st and 10 here. And they're giving to Akers again. This is kind of crazy here. Akers gained 6, so it's going to be 2nd and 13 at the 28. This is why I bet the under interception prop, Ben.
This is
McVay does not, so far, McVay does not look like he trusts his quarterback to go, he's got 2 pass attempts right now. We're more than halfway through the first quarter. This is a tricky situation here for the Los Angeles Rams, sort of as we get to, the back half of this first quarter here. They are 1st and 19 run. That says a lot about your quarterback, I would say.
Right. It definitely does. I mean, if you're sitting on a Matthew Stafford over 23.5 completions, not feeling great, right? I do think obviously those 2 outcomes of him going over his interception and also going over his completions has a pretty decent likelihood. So the fact that his, attempts are going to be cut here a little bit is pretty significant. Oh, we got a pretty big play here to Tyler Higbee.
He throws a strike to
over
Higbee.
The middle for 22 yards down into the Arizona 6. So you got to be feeling pretty good about this over 7 first quarter. I mean, maybe even free roll in the over 10 right now.
Yeah,
right?
Cam Akers now. I think that's where you see the Achilles come in. I think a full strength Cam Akers takes that jump cut to the outside and scores a touchdown. He's hawked down for just a gain of 1, so it is 2nd and goal for the Rams at the 5. We are also going to have guests today. And I think yesterday we pumped everybody up. Look, we were the main show yesterday, and we got lucky because there was so much nonsense with Jimmy Garoppolo, with Kyle Shanahan to a lesser extent, and to a big extent, Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott, and Mike McCarthy. So that carried Ben and I to a fairly fun day, even though we weren't able to get the technology to work for guests. We are going to have guests on, and I think in the first quarter today we're going to start with Austin Gayle of PFF, our director of everything, I would say, on the content side, and just an absolute A+ human being as well. So we're going to wait on Austin here to come in, but we should have him coming soon. Until then, you get to see the fullness of me here, which is amazing. We're trying to get everything sort of situated on the Zoom here. 3rd down and goal, Matthew Stafford from the 4. With about, a little under 4 minutes left in the first quarter. Stafford throws a fade to Beckham. Beckham snags it. It is a touchdown for the Los Angeles Rams. And they are up 6-0 against the Arizona Cardinals in the first ever playoff game at SoFi Stadium. Also think kind of interesting, both these teams played in St. Louis for a significant amount of their franchise history. So there's some of that, rivalry as well. Let's go ahead and go to Austin Gayle. Austin is in the PFF offices. He is in. This is how big time Austin is. Austin is in the studio that George and I have to host the PFF forecast in when he's hosting Tailgate with Mike, because when he has an NFL prospect du jour on his show, we get bumped, and that's how big of a deal Austin Gayle is. Austin, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me on the stream. I absolutely loved the Sunday night edition with the Mike McCarthy debacle and all of that. I was legitimately on my hands and knees, what the hell was going on? I had plus 200 Dallas Cowboys because Ben Brown was tailing it. I was on Ben Brown's side. Should have been following the birthday boy. Happy birthday, Eric. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you. And I will say, that is one of the – I think Ben was sharp to get 6.5. Or 7.5. I can't remember where.
7.5. Damn it, you're always short me over here. So.
But the money line play would have been sweet. I mean, if you get a last-second touchdown, you get obviously the win. You get 2-1 odds, and then you also get the scorn of one George Shahuri, which I know is never the goal, but a byproduct that sometimes is funny, I will say. So Austin, talk to me about this game, right? Because I know you're not, you've observed the Rams, you've observed the Cardinals over the course of the last few years, and they're clearly approaching these things in very, I would say, modern ways, right? And modern in the case of the Rams in that trading all their drafts and basically putting a lot of their eggs in a few baskets. It might not be sharp, but it's certainly something that they're doing that's different than everybody else. And then the Cardinals, I think, are a great example of where the rookie quarterback contract can put you. They draft Josh Rosen, doesn't work. They just cut bait immediately. They go with Kyler Murray, and now they're in the playoffs just 2 years later. What do you think about these two teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's impressive what the Rams have done to just throw away every pick. I mean, they refuse to draft prospects and instead obviously invest in guys like Matthew Stafford and OBJ and Von Miller. And I think a lot of it is because they're chasing this window that they have, and they're taking advantage of the cheat code that is having a really freaking good offensive play caller as a head coach, right? I don't think that gets discussed enough in the NFL. Head coach salaries are not put on the cap, right? And if you have a gold mine like Sean McVay, squeezing every bit you can out of that opportunity by moving away from picks and knowing that if you fit him with enough high floor players, you can consistently compete deep in the postseason. Jared Goff was never going to give them that opportunity. The decision to pay Jared Goff was obviously a mistake. And some people look at, how much they traded for Stafford is too much, but it is an upgrade over Jared Goff. And then you factor in the Odell Beckham Jr. trade as well. I think they're taking advantage of a situation that is Sean McVay is really good. And as long as we give him a fringe top 10, top 14, borderline top 8 quarterback in the NFL, we're going to consistently compete for a Super Bowl. And then you look on the flip side, the Arizona Cardinals do what every team refuses to do. They drafted a quarterback inside the top 10. He did not play well, and they drafted a generational talent at quarterback at number 1 overall. It's teams like the New York Giants refuse to do with Daniel Jones. The Jets refuse to do with Sam Darnold. And when you move on from that quickly, you can actually make plays, right? I think the worst thing you could do with a mistake is keep it. And I think that's what the Arizona Cardinals didn't. They would be nowhere near this part of the postseason if they committed to Josh Rosen and did the same thing the Giants have done with Daniel Jones. They moved on quickly, and they have Kyler Murray because of it.
Yeah, and as you know, as somebody who, is a leader in this organization and stuff, you fail quickly, right? You fail quickly, you commit, you fail quickly, and you move on to the next thing. And that obviously has to be the way that you go about things. The Cardinals, I think, are failing quickly as well with a run to Chase Edmonds on first down. So as we currently sit in this game, Austin, we have Arizona Cardinals are getting 6.5 right now. It's cheap though; it's -102. The Rams are laying 6.5, total 48.5. I mean, at this point in time, there's a little bit of faith baked in those numbers that the Cardinals are going to get going offensively, and right now there's no evidence that they're going that makes me believe they're going to. And we have a sack here from Von Miller, the acquired Von Miller for a second and third round pick on Kyler Murray. So it's third and forever for Arizona. Where are you now, as this number is now 7.5, 47.5 the total? Where are you live betting this game now?
Yeah, I'm seeing the number on my end move as far out as 10. Now at 10, plus 10 for the Arizona Cardinals, now back down to 7.5. I love what Ben Brown said on the previous broadcast, where he mentioned this is why you live bet, the volatility of these markets. You could go from 7.5 to 10, depending on how quickly you're willing to pull the trigger. Whereas the entire week, 7-day stretch, this line was at 4.5, right? It doesn't budge. 4.5 to 3.5, maybe. It never crosses a key number. You get into the game, 2 plays later, this thing goes from 10 to 7.5 to 6.5. That's where a lot of the fun can be, and it's why obviously this watch long you could benefit a lot from adding some units if you tail the birthday boy and maybe not Ben Brown. But for me, where I'm at right now with this game is I side on the dog. Now that it is at 7.5, maybe you can get it at 10. I believe in Kyler Murray. Maybe I don't believe in Cliff Kingsbury. He's been conservative in some of these situations, while running a lot of screens, running a lot on early downs. Oh my goodness! Did we see the throwback to James Conner?
That was wild. James Conner is involved. There's a flag on the play. I haven't quite seen what the actual.
Yeah, I think that they might call this illegal forward pass, even though it does look like it.
I don't think it was.
Yeah, and this is exactly that's a loss of down, so the Cardinals have to punt. This is exactly sort of the play that the Cardinals need to get going. And, I think that the biggest issue here is obviously the first pass to Kirk was a forward pass. So this second pass has to be backwards. And
it's not
pretty damn close.
And it's a little bit forward, unfortunately, because that was a great call. And I think a lot of people, yesterday when we saw the Cedric Wilson, the Tony Pollard lateral play, a lot of people were, pretty pumped about sort of, what the advantage laterals can give you in the NFL. But unfortunately, in this one, they did not get that. And so now the Cardinals have to punt. And my over 10 first quarter points is basically begging here. Now, my over 7 first quarter live, it's at least a push, okay? But 10 here is going to require one of those Stafford deep touchdowns to like Van Jefferson or something. I'm not holding my breath. Austin, as far as, and I agree with you, I think the funnest part about about in-game betting is this idea of like, obviously we have all these mathematical models that can sort of predict pre-game stuff. But numbers in the NFL and even college football are pretty beat into place by the time you get to Sunday. And most people are not necessarily getting ahead of the number and betting on Monday morning for a Sunday game. I mean, they freaking might forget that they even have money on the game by then. They're rushing up to the window on Sunday morning, and we know that those are basically sucker bets because this is, a league in which you have extreme, I would say, efficiency in the markets. But in game, not only if you have a good feel for the game, but you also are willing to take some risks and stuff like that. You not only can get on good numbers, but you can get on good middles.
Absolutely. I mean, just in this time I've been on the stream with you, the line has moved from 6.5 to 7.5 to 10 to 10.5 to 8. There's so much opportunity depending on the number you like. And I think a good example of this, I guess I have two examples of this, is when we were watching the national championship, Alabama, Georgia, Jamison Williams goes down hurt, and you could still bet on Georgia as a dog at that point in the game. A lot of value if you understand the importance of some of these players. I think there's similar bets when we had Houston winning big against the Kansas City Chiefs. I know you took out a second mortgage to bet on the Chiefs to come back in that game. This, I think, is another opportunity to do that as you continue to live bet. Now, they have not given me a lot of confidence to bet on the Arizona Cardinals, even at this 8.5 figure here, as you can see on the screen, plus 8.5, minus 118. It's just always trickery with Cliff Kingsbury. It's out of structure stuff. It's leaning on Kyler Murray. It's never this inside of structure stuff. And that's why, you've seen time and time again, Cliff Kingsbury offenses, Cliff Kingsbury-led teams fall off towards the second half of the season where some of that variance, some of that volatility from the out-of-structure wins or these trickery back throws to James Conner wins just start to fall off because of the volatility and the variance of those situations. Win inside of structure, and sometimes the Arizona Cardinals have struggled to do that, especially injuries along the offensive line. They've been without Rodney Hudson for a lot of this season. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins not playing. You have Antoine Wesley on the outside. This has been the concern with Arizona, right? It's why they've fallen off down the stretch. It's why they're a dog playing on the road in this game. They have fallen off inside of structure. Cliff Kingsbury has not been able to rise to the occasion, right? And if Kyler Murray gets banged up in any way, shape, or form, this offense really takes a step back. In addition to the injuries they've had with DeAndre Hopkins, I'm scared. I'm physically scared to bet on the Rams at plus 8.5. I have to be honest.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I think we get a stop here on first down of Cam Akers. Do you get the impression? I was asking Ben this before you got on. I know Stafford threw a nice play to Higbee, a nice play to Beckham, and a touchdown. They're running a lot on early downs. Do you think that this team is a little bit afraid of putting the ball in Matt Stafford's hands in this game? Even as he's had kind of a tremendous season from a efficiency standpoint, a touchdowns thrown standpoint, obviously of the interceptions. Do you think McVay is puckering up a little bit in this game?
I don't think that he's afraid as much as he is, I guess, maybe understanding of the situation, right? I just don't think they fear the Arizona Cardinals offense, especially after these first few drives. The Cardinals right now have -3 total yards, 0 first downs. Whereas the Rams have 93 total yards and 5 first downs in this game. Don't press on the gas pedal if you don't have to, right? And I think that's opposite to a lot of the analysis that we have at PFF. But with how conservative the Cardinals have come out, with how conservative this offense could be without DeAndre Hopkins, and that Matthew Stafford is due for a double coverage pick here and there, maybe you do avoid the situation. They also might know that you have Eric under Matthew Stafford under a half interception as we watch Cam Akers sprawl for a 13-yard gain. It looks like the ball was loose, but they are saying he was down on the field, down by contact. Cam Akers, by the way, oh my God, comeback player of the year. He just comes back in the same season. This guy's looking insane. How is he having this level of success, like coming off a torn Achilles? This doesn't make sense to me.
It's unbelievable. And I would say, that was my handicap coming in, was I thought McVay was going to be a little bit more. I think he was. This is my impression, is I thought McVay was, extremely. I thought McVay was on his best behavior with Jared Goff, and I thought that he was sort of. Much like, if Ben knows this, Austin, you've babysat before, with kids, it's you're sort of you're exhausted after sort of taking care. Yeah. You're exhausted after taking care of these kids for so long, and you kind of just want to talk. You hear stay-at-home moms are they just want to talk to an adult one day. I thought, McVay just wanted to talk to an adult quarterback for once, right? And so he kind of let his hair down a little bit and opened this offense up. And that worked great in the first part of the season, but the inevitable Stafford regression happened, and it looked like McVay was sort of not necessarily ready for it or whatever. And to me, I think now you sort of see maybe finding a little bit of the difference between kind of splitting the difference, obviously knowing that Stafford's not one of the top 5 quarterbacks in football, but also appreciating the fact that he's probably better than Jared Goff and getting. The best out of him here. We have a pass for 14 yards to Higbee. This game might get out of hand if we're not careful here. Stafford up to 62 yards throwing in the first quarter. Higbee running away from Jordan Hicks a little bit there. I do not think we're going to get over this 10 points the first quarter, guys. I don't think I'm in.
I love the analogy to watching kids. I don't know if I'm 100% there with you, but I have watched kids before. And I think, Mike and I were talking about this on our podcast today about how teams in the postseason that go on runs, right, are teams that have quarterbacks that are capable of high-end variance. Now, there are quarterbacks in the postseason that consistently compete at the high end. Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, where you're not dependent on them hitting that high side like a Jameis Winston every once in a while. But there are also these quarterbacks, right, with Matthew Stafford, Josh Allen, where they are due for some bad games. They do have some of these bad games. But if you are going to go a run in the postseason and you are going to put up points against some of the best teams in the NFL, you need quarterbacks that are capable of this high end, even if it is something that does go up and down, right? Even if it is something that's volatile like we have with the Matthew Stafford situation, at least he's capable of it, right? Jared Goff isn't capable of it. Jared Goff, even though he's not, even though he's maybe has a higher floor than what Stafford has, he wouldn't throw some of these balls that Stafford does down the field. He's not capable of these high-end runs. He's not capable of a Stafford-like play, a Josh Allen and Mahomes. And I think that's the bigger reason why you chase that, right? I mean, it's exactly why the San Francisco 49ers traded 2 first-round picks to go get Trey Lance when they have Jimmy Garoppolo now going on to the divisional round. Divisional round, you look in that game, the only reason the Dallas Cowboys are able to come back is because Jimmy G makes some mistakes. Jimmy G misses a wide open Brandon Ayuk after he cooks Trayvon Diggs. He nearly fumbles a football that almost cost him a big field position. He throws an ugly interception. I think you have to chase the high end. You have to chase the tools, the physical traits of an Allen, of a Trey Lance, of a Mahomes, of a Stafford, if you're going to go on these runs and consistently compete for Super Bowls.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the first quarter's over. Austin, you've been so gracious to grace us with your presence, but I'd be remiss. I'd be cheating the viewers, of which there are a few hundred on YouTube and Twitter right now. We obviously appreciate you guys coming along. I would be cheating the listeners if we didn't get you to make one bet on this game the rest of the way.
Right.
I mean, it could be a player prop, by the way. We can open up the player prop here.
Let me take, honestly, I am leaning towards the under. I am leaning towards the under. I think the live total is at 47.5. And as much as the Rams look good on offense, I don't love where the Cardinals have been. And I think they might turn it on and might try to throw the football, but I don't think they can get aggressive downfield. I think I'm leaning towards the live total right now under 47.5.
Okay, well, Austin, we can't give you 47.5 because that doesn't exist anywhere.
Oh, no. I see it on DraftKings. Oh, now it's at 46.
Yeah, but
I'm sharp.
46 and a half.
You are sharp. We agree there. We'll give you 46 and a half, which is on Caesars.
Deal.
Okay. So that's Austin Gayle's bet. I'm already 0 for 1. I had over 10 first quarter points. And Austin, we really appreciate you being on here. We really appreciate you staying at the office until 9 o'clock Eastern. And go ahead and make sure that you don't fall over on your bike like George did on his way home yesterday.
Appreciate you guys. Have fun.
All right. So we have the second quarter here with the LA Rams now at the 41 of the Cardinals, really looking like they're going to pour it on here. We are now rooting for run plays and field goals now that Austin Gayle has bet some of his hard-earned cash on the under here. We do get a run play on 1st and 10 with Cam Akers gaining a few yards here. I don't know if we're going to get George to hurry on now that that I revealed that his bike ride last night. Now, I was going 45 on the highway with the snow here in Ohio. No one knows how to drive here. So I'm not really one to sort of talk, but yeah, we're a little bit. We're going to get Brad Spielberger on in the second quarter here. We'll probably let this drive play out, and then we'll bring on PFF Brad, who has done tremendous work for us this week in the free agency market, as well as with some kind of keeping us abreast with the head coach and GM stuff. Ben, what's your impression of this first quarter of this game?
Yeah, I definitely in agreement with Austin. I was trying to make some bets, some plays here to put some food on the table when you guys were, going back and forth on the Rams and Jared Goff situation. So I didn't necessarily tail Austin, but I did get some 47 and a half under. Obviously, it's easy to say now with the total dropping significantly and Austin being on the same side of me. I did load up as well before these couple of Cam Akers runs. I know it's easy to say now. I should tweet out my bets. I can provide the receipts, but I did get on some Cam Akers over rushing yards as well, which has obviously worked out well in this drive. But I agree with Austin. I think this is going to be, if the Rams put up points here, I haven't seen anything whatsoever from that Arizona Cardinals offense, which has me at all concerned and wanting to take them at basically any price right now. So I don't only think if you're looking at, game spread or total, definitely the under 45 and a half is where I would be right now.
Okay. Yep. And so let's look at the YouTube comments here. George is I was just inferring. People here, J.D. Spurgill, George, you want Lance in the next round over James G. That's a ridiculous question. Jimmy G has them in the second round of the playoffs, the second time in 3 years. Now, maybe it was ridiculous to go up and get Trey Lance in the first place. Austin is remarking about how sharp he is. Look, we can't lie with results here. And Jack here is saying he thinks George would rather eat Skyline than be caught on a tricycle. Look, neither one of those outcomes is a good one. I don't think, especially now that I have taken a singular bite of Skyline, I don't necessarily think that George would in any circumstance eat Skyline chili. What do we have here for Stafford? We have a completion down to Odell Beckham Jr. inside the 5. A tough scene for the Cleveland Browns fans that wanted Odell Beckham Jr. Run out of town here. What a really good play call by McVay out of trips here. He had Odell running the wheel. There was really no one around him. Cooper Kupp, obviously, by being almost a 2,000-yard receiver, drawing a lot of coverage. The Cooper Kupp over, by the way, for those of you that are following along, Cooper Kupp, 1 catch so far today. Stafford, 93 yards. For those of you that were with me and were on the Stafford over 273 or 74 and a half, I think it is, passing yards. He so far is at 93. We have a rush here by the Rams. I think it's Akers, and I think it's a touchdown for Los Angeles. It's actually Sony Michel. And so the Rams are now up 13-0 here on the Arizona Cardinals. There is some question as to whether Michel's in, which is why it's not popping up here on NFL Jesus. But so far, this has been a dominant performance by the Los Angeles Rams. Stafford, 6 of 6 for 93 yards and a touchdown. No interceptions so far for the bets, as they say. The Arizona Cardinals right now, -3 total yards of offense on 9 plays. 3 yards rushing, -6 yards passing. This takes me, and we can pull up the props on FanDuel here, who have great player props for rushing and receiving. and I think a few of them are basically locked out right now, and I can understand why. I think if a number pops up with Chase Edmonds or James Conner in either at any point in time, I think you do have to consider their under. I don't think Arizona is going to stick to a run game here. I don't think that they're going to do much of anything other than let Kyler Murray run the football. And if that's what they do, like, I think Edmonds and Connor's unders are going to be pretty good plays. Now, you can't bet these things unless they're available. But if you are following with us and you have, for example, a book either offshore or legal that gives you player props, that would be something I would look at over the next few minutes here.
It's dark out there, at least as far as the player prop market. I do agree with you quite a bit on Chase Edmonds and James Conner. If you were choosing right now between a Cam Akers or Sony Michel over, is there one that you would get on, Eric? I do think that it has been basically all Cam Akers, right? 9 carries to Sony Michel's 4, if this one counts right now. So I do think that Akers is looking like the legitimate lead back in this offense right now, kind of through a quarter and a half. So,
well, if you look at what they've invested in him, obviously he's a second-round pick. He was their top pick a season ago. And, Michel is a 4th-round pick, which to them is like nothing. So, it's clear that, like, if he was showing any sort of juice, they would give him the ball. Michel does have the 35-yard run, which I think, and what looks like this touchdown here. So it looks like it's sort of a split back. So it might just be one of those situations now. They have an equal number of yards, basically. Michel at 36, Akers at 38. Like, if you could bet, whichever one has a lower total may be the one to go with, just to be contrarian in this space. We do have Michel is down at the 1 per review. So this is going to be a 2nd and goal at the 1. Austin Gayle's under alive here. Because
right. As many plays as you can get for the under. That's what you got to root for. I mean, basically field goals, punts on the other side of the 50. I mean, the unders aren't for everybody, but they are a unique sweat that I enjoy probably more than I should right now, right? So,
yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Okay, so let's think about as we sort of work through here, thinking about running back unders for Arizona, thinking about possibly receiving also passing overs for Murray. Now, we don't have any player props up now, and I think that that's because of the game state being in flux. The game state being, down, distance, score of the game. Those are the kinds of things that feed into the live models that you end up getting in for the sports books and stuff like that. It looks like once they're updated, we'll be fine as far as passing yards and things like that. Again, Murray right now at 2. So if you're going to bet him live, like, just know that, like, he's coming from a very small number here. Stafford, 2nd and goal from the 1. It looks like Michel's in the backfield, 3 tight ends, and Stafford is going to try to get you that 2nd yard.
Can't do it.
And he can't do it.
Huh?
Yeah, he can't do it.
Yeah, that is interesting. So we do have Odell Beckham. I mean, he's basically right at his reception prop right now, 3.5 under receptions. He's at 52 yards. He already has gone over his receiving yards. So he has definitely been the guy outside of Tyler Higbee. Cooper Kupp, not much to show for it.
Edmonds.
I think Stafford got in there. Nah, I don't think he did.
I saw Edmonds at 20.5 and Connor at 25.5 pop up briefly. Also, just to pat myself on the back, I saw Stafford under 0.5 interceptions pop up at minus 225. And it looks like Stafford is going to sneak again, and it looks like he's going to get stuffed again.
I should have taken his rushing attempt over. Basically.
Yeah, I mean, that's over for sure.
Right.
Anyway, so I think when this pops up for good, I'm going to take the Connor under 25.5 rushing yards.
All right. I'm getting my trigger finger ready here.
Yeah, and so go ahead. Obviously, it's different by book, but this is the FanDuel line as well. And after this possession, we're going to bring in our friend and colleague Brad Spielberger. I think we waited a little too long to have Austin on last quarter. We're not going to make that same mistake with Brad here. Our salary cap, our resident lawyer, I would say his tweets are better than mine even. So like there really isn't an area where I'm better than Brad. So we're going to bring him on to talk gambling. He's also very degenerate the way that we are. So that'll be
Right.
A good situation there. Is McVay challenging this?
They challenged the second Matthew Stafford dive, basically, and I think he's honestly in. I mean, he's gonna win it, but like, what's the risk to reward right there, right?
You think he's gonna win this? I have not.
I think he's in.
Okay.
I'm also biased. I really want one more yard, and we'll see if he has to kneel down later on in the game.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see. The best part about Brad was his wedding outfit. He looked so fly. I don't think I've seen anybody look better than Brad did on his wedding day. So definitely got to get him some congrats. He's probably still running good off of that wedding day vibe that he had early on in the season. I think he's been making some pretty good money on Caesars now that, the New York market is now opened up. So definitely props to all the people that are betting in New York right now, because it's been
I saw
pretty
him
good from a bonus perspective.
I saw him in New York when we went to the Army-Navy game. And we're going to get Brad here now that this delay has gotten out of control. I was really irritated to know that New Jersey, who has been one of the most progressive states as far as sports betting, would not allow me to wager on that game live or pregame. Like, it would not allow me to wager on a game played in New Jersey, which I kind of understand from, like, okay, you go to the game and you're going to be a little bit ahead of the live lines, and so you can front run them. But that's kind of a risk you have to take, I think, for the goodwill of having betting in your state. And the fact is like, they made $1 billion of revenue, during like the last, I can't remember what period it was, but they had the highest betting revenue, in the country over a time, and they're losing money for that. Brad Spielberger, PFF_Brad is in. Brad, welcome. I know your Bears are not in the playoffs here. The Rams and the Cardinals, we have the Chicago there. We get a January sighting for the Bears. But Brad, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. Yes, a rare Bears sighting in January.
Absolutely. So Brad, let's get us caught up here. What are you on in this game here as far as a betting standpoint, pre-flop, and have you taken any live bets so far in this game?
Yes, well, happy to report that I'm on the Rams. I bought it down to -3, -120, so feeling good about the start here. And I would explore some live lines. I would explore a live over, I think. I think Arizona's going to open it up a bit.
Okay, so Stafford was ruled in, meaning, we're still like one more sneak away from, I think, being over this 1.5 yards on behalf of Stafford in the run game, because of kneel downs and stuff like that. Can really hurt you here. But he is currently over 1.5 rushing yards for the day. So we were Rams with a Matt Gay extra point are up 14-0. Let's reset here with the current situation. Brad Spielberger sitting good now because the Los Angeles Rams live are -13.5, even on both sides. Total on the game 47.5. Austin Gayle, who was our guest in the first quarter, had under 46.5 live. So he's just got 1 point in the bad here, and given that Arizona has not gained a yard yet, probably still okay after this next drive unless Arizona turns a new leaf. Let's introduce the audience to sort of who you are, Brad, because you are a big part of our operation here. We have free agency rankings live on the website. If we want to go, well, we're not going to go to the website here at the time, but we have live free agency rankings on the site. You're the one that goes through and uses PFF WAR, the aforementioned George Shahuri and I, one of our developments, and you use, I think your expertise and things that you've learned along the way, like, how valuable draft position is and how valuable positions are. And you're the one that draws up these contract projections. And I got to say, like, they're not only something that consumers use, but they're something that the teams use.
Yeah, and we're starting to see definitely some buy-in from a lot of folks. I can say some players' representation will maybe give us a ring and hope to boost those one way or the other. Obviously, always sticking with our numbers and trusting our process there. But it is fun to see, how folks respect that and appreciate that. It's not really something that is commonplace to do. There's a lot of draft big boards out there, but I'm hoping to get our free agency page on the same level.
Yeah, absolutely. So When you're looking at sort of something, like tonight's game, I mean, tonight's game, I think a lot of people are going to overreact to and things like that. But when you're looking at the process sort of pricing a player, what are sort of the key instruments that sort of go into that?
Yeah, 100%. So as you mentioned, obviously it starts with the foundation with our PFF war. But even before I got here, I think you can get to a similar point. Frankly, just by you find comparable players from a statistical standpoint. You generally look at 2-year windows. It's called the platform year or the contract year, and then the year before that. And like you said, you take in all the normal traditional stats, and then now with the benefit of our data, you can get even more accurate and more precise with our grades and our war. And frankly, you just extrapolate. If these players produce at this level and our guy produced at this level, what did those guys get paid historically? And then you kind of forecast that forward with the rise in the salary cap. You also then get into, is there scarcity on the market and things like that. So real quick, an anecdote, you mentioned these playoff games. That stuff also matters a ton. Narratives matter a lot. And one example from last night, DJ Jones for the San Francisco 49ers, for my money, might be the best interior defender hitting the open market. It's not a strong class, but still, really good player. Had a massive sack last night in a huge, when Nick Bosa was no longer in the game, I think he only continues to rise his stock.
Yeah, speaking of narratives here, I'm going to make a bet on James Conner under 21.5 minus 110. Let's get that on the board really quick here because this Cardinals offense is a complete joke. And
I did lock it in, Eric. I did lock it in for you at 24.5 before this drive. I didn't actually announce.
So let's go ahead and
you got a little bit of a better number basically from that.
Let's go ahead and put that.
I gotta ask Brad a question. I want to ask Brad a question. I got to get this in. Brad, maybe as a Vikings fan, I want to know this answer. But if you had the perfect GM and head coach marriage, basically, kind of for your Chicago Bears, who would that be on your short list right now?
I think right now for head coach, it would be Brian Daboll. And I even do recognize that, he's kind of a hot name. And before he was working with Josh Allen, he really did not have many productive offenses. But it sounds like he's changed over the years. He's grown. And I think of these offensive, potential coaches, I think Byron Leftwich is an interesting name as well. But I think Brian Daboll sticks out. As for general manager, also a ton of strong candidates. It sounds like so far in Chicago, Monty Ossenfort of the Tennessee Titans and Glenn Cook with the Cleveland Browns are the two guys that have impressed them the most so far. I think another name to keep an eye on is Morocco Brown with the Indianapolis Colts, has been their head of their drafting for the last 4 or 5 years, and obviously they've done remarkably well in the draft. So I think those guys are some names to keep an eye on.
Very good insight there, and no one, as I will tweet out when this news happens, no one more plugged in than you, Brad. We get a swing pass out there to Rondale Moore, pushed out of bounds. So we have the Cardinals right now, -4 yards as they punt the ball back to the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams are on the other side of the 50 after a punt return by Powell. Man, I don't know, man. I do think this helps the Stafford under interceptions prop, but I don't think it helps the yardage prop. I don't think, Ben, you're going to get much love on this Cooper Kupp over unless we can get some Arizona Cardinals to the window here with some bets or with some touchdowns. I don't see, I think the Rams might just run this game out and go to round 2 here against the Tampa Bay Bucks, a team that they beat in week 3 this year. Right now here, what are we looking at for live line? We have right now we have -16.5. Is basically the true line right now. Total 47.5. Geez, I mean, look, McVay is running circles around Cliff Kingsbury right now, and I don't, this is a much different experience than we had yesterday, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I mean, I'm seeing some 48.5s already, so it does seem like the betting market is obviously pricing in, some more dominance from the Rams specifically this drive, but it's also been the fact that Arizona hasn't had any semblance of offense, right? I think they have one first down so far here. Like you said, negative yards, basically. They might not even have a first down, to be honest. So it has been pretty bad. And I think it's mainly, the Rams defense, which is kind of putting them in place to win this game. But I still lean toward the under. I still think 48.5, a little bit too high. Obviously, the Rams get up early. Maybe we see some garbage time touchdowns from the Arizona Cardinals, but 48.5 just seems like there's no way that we get enough offensive touchdowns from the Arizona Cardinals in order to run away with. So I like that quite a bit. I think the Rams probably run away with it, take the air out of the football in the second half, and we don't see too many points happening. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. But
yeah, I think so too. Brad, is there anywhere on the prop market or anything that you're looking at just to sort of throw a few of these things out there? Cooper Kupp's receiving yardage total right now is at 70.5 after he closed well above 100. And now it's off the board. A.J. Green, 33.5. Rondale Moore, 20.5. Christian Kirk, 40.5. Zach Ertz, another player who was getting a lot of love, on the markets. I know our own Kendall Valenzuela had him anytime touchdown. And we still might get that. I mean, we're looking at still probably a situation where we're going to get some, and Matthew Stafford's going to run here. And he gets 4 yards. And I think, Ben, I think you're going to get that bet to hit now. Yes, I don't think
we got the one that matters, right?
There's
not going to be there that matters. Quarterback rushing props, especially Matthew Stafford over 1.5. Yeah. So we got there. I'm feeling good now. That's like the first sweat-free win that we have on the over. That's why you bet those things.
Yeah, and I took it at over 2.5.
Everything else can be dicey, right? So
I didn't have, because I live in Ohio, so I mostly bet offshore unless I go to Indiana, and I did not feel like going to Indiana today. So I bet Stafford over 2.5 rushing yards offshore, but Ben already beat me to it, so I did not post it as one of my plays. But 1.5 rushing yards, I think, is going to go over there. Look, then they go to Sony Michel for a gain of 2. This is a big third down. I don't mean to make this game into more than what it is, but down 14-0 at the 44, Brad. 3rd and 4. I mean, this is the play, right? This is the play because Sean McVay is not going to go for a 4th and short. You know that he's not going to, he's going to punt if you get a stop here. You really do need, I think, a stop here if you're the Cardinals, and you can turn the game around with one. Even though the Rams get the ball to start the second half. That's another important aspect of this game as well.
Yeah, I think it's huge for the total as well for Ben. I mean, if they're going up 21-0, then you're in a position where Arizona is kind of throwing caution to the wind and just trying to get back in this football game. Also, real quick, just to mention one prop to keep an eye on. I think Sony Michel has some value because I think there's a big narrative around Cam Akers, and frankly, I think the Los Angeles Rams traded a 4th-round pick for Sony Michel for this exact reason. I mean, he's a guy that runs north and south, falls forward, and gets you 5 yards. And I think they're going to just feed him the rest of this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we have a missed deep shot. Cam Akers is wide open, wide open. And Matthew Stafford underthrows him for his first.
He should have caught that football.
Yeah, of course. But it underthrown, first incompletion of the game for our friend Matthew Stafford. And as foretold, in a positive EV situation, our Sean McVay knows what it means and punts it, and great special teams by the Rams to down it at the 1 yard line. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. I know he's been starting for a few weeks, so it's a dereliction of duty on my part to not know how to pronounce his name, but he downs it at the 1 yard line. Okay, so let's reset here as we're probably going to go to commercial. Okay, let's look at these markets here and see if we want anything right now. We have basically, minus 14.5 is the current market odds. 45.5 is the current total. Austin Gayle on the right side right now. You love to see that. Brad, is there anything you want? Do you want a little bit of a sprinkle on Arizona 7-1 to win this game outright? Down 2 touchdowns?
Is there a live line for if Cliff Kingsbury is the head coach of the Cardinals on Tuesday? Because I might take a little bit of action there.
Oh, wow. So there was the reports about Mike McCarthy. I thought that they lost the game in the most fireable way possible yesterday. It does look like, though, from where you're sitting, Mike McCarthy's probably safe for Dallas, right? What are your reads on the Bisaccia in Oakland?
Yeah, so that was
Las
interesting.
Vegas?
I think part of the equation there is that Dallas was trying to weigh if they're going to lose Kellen Moore or not, and I think frankly they are less concerned they're going to lose Kellen Moore, and so that leads to McCarthy staying. Unfortunately for Rich Bisaccia, I think he's getting this waiting period, this trial period right now. He'll get a legitimate interview and a chance to prove himself, but I still think he's more likely out than staying.
Yeah. Let's just we don't have to go to the actual YouTube, but we can just look at a few of these options here. Austin, of course, is saying the under looks great live. We also get a comment here from Aiden McMullen. Brad, nice work on the free agents extension projection article. That, of course, is something you can look at PFF.com. A few questions here about your OBJ senior tweet going crazy. We'll probably post that after you leave once we have the room on the screen here. But yeah, the YouTube is going wild the same way that it was yesterday. Erie 24/7 says, if the Cardinals don't get a first down here, I'm going to bed. Here's the thing I'll say. As somebody who is a positive, I want to be a positive person here. The Cardinals have -4 yards total offense right now. The worst it can be after this drive is -5.
That is optimistic. Yeah, no, for sure. I think Rondell Moore is going to be the guy here. I think they're going to start trying to push the ball downfield, but I think checkdowns are a big possibility here, and just hope he breaks some tackles and makes something happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still kind of think if you're looking at some of these rushing props, so right now you don't see Murray's on the board. He has -1 yards. It does look like my guy James Conner does pick up 3 here. So he's a little bit closer to that number. Murray right now at 29.5 -118. I do think that that's a number that some people might want to consider just because he's going to take off with his legs. He's a guy that's kind of a high variance player. That one just got taken down. In fact, all those props have gotten taken down. You look here, basically the exact opposite of what the Buffalo Bills did offensively Saturday is what you're seeing here with the Arizona Cardinals. Murray dropping into his own end zone and just heaving. He's got a guy. It's A.J. Green. And that's a incompletion. Green caught it, then got hit, fumbled it out of bounds. The referees are trying to decide. Man, A.J. Green, by the way, what was his contract this year, Brad?
It was 1 year and about $6 million. And I know, we're not the biggest A.J. Green guys. I would say he earned that, but probably not much more.
Yeah. $6 million is not a hard, thing to climb. I do think he caught this ball, and I do think it's incomplete. Or sorry, I do think he caught this ball and it's a fumble. Like he does make a football move with it before losing it out of bounds. But we still have not seen an update on NFL Jesus here. As people, I think you have 2 feet down and some semblance. I mean, it's an A.J. Green football move at this point. He's not doing a whole lot with the football. So I think by the definition of a football move, for A.J. Green, it is a football move here. But it does look like they're still deliberating over it. We don't get a read here on Jesus. So reset here, a little bit under 8:40 left in the second quarter. Rams up 14-0. Cardinals with the ball here, trying to. I mean, they're really behind the 8 ball here because they got the ball first, and now they're still down 14-0. And Kyler Murray right now 3 for 7 for 8 yards. None of these props are up. In large part because this game state, again, as we talked about earlier, is in flux. So it's hard to bet a game when the game state is sort of not known. And that's why if you're looking at your live betting screens now, depending upon the book, you're seeing it being locked because they can't sort of figure out what the down and distance and yards to go is. So, okay, let's recap a little bit. So Brad, we can't let you out of here without a bet, okay?
Right.
We can't let you out of here without a bet. It is a fumble for A.J. Green. And so with 8:13 left, it is a completion. And Arizona's out to the 24. The live line currently 13.5. You were on the Rams pregame. 13.5 feels like a number that if you were on the Rams pregame and you're watching this Cardinals offense with some disgust, you're going to lay the 13.5, Brad. What do you think there?
I think it's worth considering, especially because I went ahead and bought the hook. It was even money for 3.5, so I decided to go ahead and buy it down to 3. I think it's solid protection. I do think the Rams are still going to cover, maybe even the current score, but it's the playoffs, right? I mean, you never know. You have Eric Weddle back there at safety for the Rams, so they played an overtime game last week, so maybe so did the 49ers, and they were fine yesterday, but there are maybe some factors working in Arizona's favor here.
Yeah, it does. And they're reviewing this now, so we just have is this McVay's second challenge of the game, or are they reviewing this from the booth? I think
it has to be. I think it has to be McVay's second challenge, basically.
So if he is unsuccessful on this challenge, he will be without challenges the rest of the game. that is something to consider because, look, referees are great in this league, game in and game out. But there could be a problem at the end with respect to a blown call. And if the Rams don't have the benefit of a review, they might be in trouble here. Okay, so let's think about moving to here. So we just had the firing of Mike Mayock, right, in Vegas. You have Bisaccia as the head coach. What do you think, and possibly out, what do you think the GM search is going to look like for the Raiders? And what is that person going to be left, with as far as, a roster and a resource standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple, frankly. First and foremost, I think the search is probably going to look like, who does Jim Harbaugh want to work with? But as for the roster, I think you basically come in on day one, you either give Derek Carr a 5-year, $200 million extension, or you trade him to the Washington football team or whoever for, I would say he's still, look, he's not even 30 years old. Yes, he's not an elite quarterback, but I think he's in that 8 to 14 range of quarterbacks. I think he's still getting you probably a first and second round pick, maybe a first, a third, and a player. So I think it all comes down to that. And then you either try to build around Derek Carr or you just start over.
Yeah, you bring up something interesting, right? Because we've seen in this playoff round, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. So Derek Carr is far more in that sort of middle of the pack group, but he's not rookie contract eligible. He loses to Joe Burrow, who's a brilliant player, rookie contract. You have Josh Allen, who just got out of his rookie contract, but I would say most people believe he's worth every penny of his veteran quarterback deal. He's playing Mac Jones, who's sort of in that Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill cluster of quarterbacks. They get shellacked. And then the 1 o'clock game, you have Jalen Hurts, who, rookie contract, a lot of those benefits are why Philadelphia is in the playoffs, but they get killed by Tampa Bay and Tom Brady, a brilliant quarterback. Dallas against San Francisco is a little bit of the outlier, where Jimmy G is sort of more that middle of the pack guy. Dak is more of the player who is sort of on that, that big contract that should be that good, although incompletion to A.J. Green here. So Cardinals now backed up and on third down and long. And then the night game, Big Ben, he's washed. He plays a brilliant quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. He loses. And in tonight's game, you have the rookie deal quarterback in Murray, and you have the veteran guy in Stafford. With the carouseling going on, do you think that we're going to be playing musical chairs, and there's going to be a quarterback who's in that Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr type of cluster that's going to be left where the team's holding the bag and they're saying they're trying to trade, let's say, Derek Carr, and there's not going to be a team that wants him because there's not enough spots to be filled in the quarterback carousel in the NFL?
Unfortunately for both of you guys, yeah. I mean, there is a quarterback that fits that bill, and it's Kirk Cousins, and it's not just because of his play. It's also because he's been franchise tagged twice already. He's effectively not eligible for a franchise tag again, right? So if you trade for Kirk Cousins this offseason, you're going to have to give him the same deal I just mentioned for Carr, probably 5 years, $200 million, and as good as Kirk Cousins is, that you talked about, on a rookie deal when he was a fourth-round pick with the Washington football team and they made the playoffs, Kirk Cousins taking up a large chunk of your salary cap, you're not going to win playoff games. And so I think there is a possibility that if Russell Wilson moves, if Derek Carr potentially moves, if Aaron Rodgers does move, that Minnesota is the one making the phone call, and you never want to be the one making the phone call. You want to be the one answering.
Exactly. And like, the problem that Minnesota's in is, like, they had their chance with a great roster to insert Cousins in there, and unfortunately, they did not hit on 18 and 19, and then at 20 and 21, the defense deteriorated, and now it's sort of like you have to resolve the quarterback deal, but also build the offense around him, and we're going to get a safety or a pick six here. Murray throws an interception to pick six to the Rams here. Holy shit. Okay, so just to recap, Murray was getting sacked in the end zone. Instead of giving up a safety, he decided to just throw something underhand, and it was an interception by a Rams player. I think it's Deontay Dion who runs this thing into the end zone. Oh, no, David Long, who runs this thing into the end zone for a 3-yard interception return for a touchdown. And this game, the route is on. It's now 20-0 Los Angeles. Yeah, and so with that, we don't want to keep Brad for that much longer because this has been an absolute train wreck of a quarter for the Cardinals. But we got to keep. So look, you lost your opportunity to make a bet when we asked you here, but now the live lines here. We got to get you out of here with a bet. Live line is Rams minus 20.5, minus 125. Cardinals plus 20.5, minus 102. Total on the game 50.5. Sorry, Austin Gayle. Brad, do you have any thoughts on the live market here for this Rams-Cardinals game?
Yeah, I hate to disagree with Ben Brown. Generally, when I do that, I lose money. But I think the over still kind of entices me. And also, I think there's an argument to be made both for the over and for the Cardinals that safety actually, or a pick six may have been better than a safety for the Cardinals there.
Right, because they're just going to go into this mode now of, okay, so you're taking over 50.5?
Yep, I'll lock that in as my live bet for my appearance.
Yeah, and you need one more touchdown in the half to sort of be on pace for that, and then in the second half, you basically need Arizona just to be live again, right? You need Arizona to score a touchdown at the end of the half for the Rams to be a little bit nervous about this game, and to sort of continue to play their hits here. All the Stafford overs, other than the interception, I think, and even the interception, I think the Stafford overs, other than rushing yards, are a little in peril right now. Cooper Kupp over 7.5 receptions, I think is deader than a doornail here. But we'll see. I mean, stranger things have happened. But we're trending towards, and Ben and I got so lucky yesterday with San Francisco, Dallas. We're trending towards another one of these Philadelphia, Tampa Bay games here. But Brad, we'll let you go here. We kept you for quite a long time here. We really appreciate, not only you coming and joining us, but all the work you do for Pro Football Focus. So, Brad Spielberger, tell everybody where they can find you on the internet that they haven't before.
Yeah, of course. Thank you guys so much for bringing me on. You can find me on Twitter at PFF_Brad, a very unique, username around the company. And as we've talked about, obviously a football analyst for everything, but it's now the 2022 season in my eyes. It's free agency time, so about 6 weeks away about 2 months away from free agency. So get ready.
Awesome. Well, Brad, thank you for joining us, and let's go points here for the sake of your bets.
Go Points.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Ben, as we sort of trend into this, we're still, I think, actually, the viewership's going up, much like it did the first game, sort of more and more as the game goes along. And maybe that's because this game has lost a lot of its sort of pure football luster right now. But yeah, I mean, I think, and James Conner is loose.
James Conner's season right now, right? Yeah. So, I mean, if you're honestly watching this game still coming up in the second half, you have to have some bets on it, right? We're going to be here till the dirty end, basically sweating these out. And I think it's going to be James Conner's the one that's probably going to be the sweatiest out of all of them. But I don't know, not a good 2 possessions for, the Cardinals backers or James Conner under backers either way. So, I don't know. What are you seeing right now? 49.5. I know we've had some, conflicting things. We got a Polish middle basically between our last 2 guests on the total, but I don't know. I think the under is still the correct side here. I'm not quite sure if I want to double down or not right now though.
Yeah, I think that the thing about the under that sucks is the fact that Murray is capable of doing what he just did on the last drive, which is just absolute nonsense. That's going to get you hurt because I do think the Rams are just going to go into a shell here and run Sony Michel and Cam Akers. In fact, that's where I want to sort of look to our next live props, although we're not seeing any available on FanDuel. But I do think those live overs for guys like Michel and Akers are going to be plays that you sort of want to have, working for you. Murray here on 2nd and 10 does throw another. Oh, wow. So that ball went through the hands of Rondale Moore into the hands of a defender, David Long, who is looking for his 2nd interception of the game, and he dropped it right into Moore's hands. So a little bit of luck here for Kyler Murray as they are now moving the football out to their own 40. This has been their best drive of the game so far. Now they go into Wildcats, and Chase Edmonds takes a pretty nice play here for 10 yards out of Wildcats to the 50. It does not look like they're abandoning the run. Both of the running backs are at 14 yards so far, so at least we only have the one bet there. Connor's live total is 30.5, minus 114, so we are still, reeling a little bit with that one.
We do have some live props now on DraftKings Sportsbook. We do have at least the Rams reception and receiving yardage totals down at the bottom. I mean, I know you said Cooper Kupp was basically dead on that reception over 7.5. It has fluctuated basically between 5.5 and 4.5 for him, minus 175, flipping the juice heavily on either side, depending on if you're at 4.5 or 5.5. But I feel like I can't even get involved, right? I honestly don't hate Cooper Kupp under 4.5 at plus 130, but I think this next drive for the Rams is going to be the determining factor, and if he goes over even that 4.5 number. But yeah, not feeling good about the Cooper Kupp overs, unfortunately. This has been kind of the Odell Beckham Jr. and Los Angeles Rams defensive show for sure.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and look at our YouTube comments here for all the loyal people on the stream here. People are defending Kyler Murray's honor, even as he throws a tipped ball interception here to the Rams. Okay, so the Rams are going to take over around midfield. That one actually wasn't Murray's fault, other than the fact that they're not comfortable going downfield. Murray threw a screen pass to James Conner. It was off James Conner's hands. It was intercepted there. But let's look at here. Cardinals have to go to the run game. Michael Panza, I don't know if that's going to work quite for them. Wait till he has nothing to lose and we see his character rushes for 50. Okay, so that's a pretty solid shout there. It was awful throw. Okay, yeah, I can see that. I mean, look, like it was pretty high. I think Connor's still got to catch that ball. And somebody tweeting out or mentioning in the comments that Matthew Stafford is Carson Palmer. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I mean, both men were picked number 1 overall. Both guys took a team to the NFC Championship game. But
I think that's a really good comp, actually.
Yeah.
I kind of like that one. I might have to use that one, steal that for myself or something, because I feel like that's pretty decent comparison. I think Stafford has a little bit higher of a ceiling, maybe. In certain spots, but yeah, that's a good one. I think that hits home for me personally.
A lot of mentions of Murray's height, which some offensive, some a little bit towing that line. Yeah, I mean, look, there is issues there with that height. I mean, I think on that screen pass, he's trying to throw it over, a rushing edge player over a tackle, and that does cause some issues there. Looking here, another important drive. Again, the Cardinals did get a stop in the last drive before Murray threw the pick 6 to David Long. It's 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 10 here from midfield. I mean, they can get a stop, go down and score. There might be an opportunity for them. It does not look like they're going to get said stop, as Odell Beckham Jr. Is making plays here for the Los Angeles Rams. But there is a penalty on the play, and it's offensive holding on Andrew Whitworth, who left the game with an injury prior. And has since returned, but now you do get the Rams now backed up to their own 40 at 2nd and 20. Do we see if you're a Stafford backer, you're about 180 yards away from the total going over. Do you end up with do you have any faith that can get over? I don't think so. I think that's a dead on arrival sort of play here, but we'll see.
I don't think he has a single completion this entire quarter, basically, right? So from that perspective, I think he was 6 of 6 to end the first quarter. Hasn't had another one since then. So yeah, I feel pretty poor about the 23.5 completions that I had him early on the pre-flop line, because this is gonna get maybe a little bit out of hand. I do think DraftKings basically has him at 17.5 right now for passing completions. Kyler Murray up to 23.5. That one seems high as well, I would say, especially if you maybe lean in Kyler Murray's rushing yardage projection. If you do think that the Rams are capable of getting some pressure situations, maybe you think he's going to take off and get a couple scrambles. So I would lean either the under on rushing yards or pass completions for Kyler Murray, because I don't think he's going to get over both in this particular spot.
Yeah, it's interesting because you do see the Rams are sort of really disciplined rushing the passer today, and Murray hasn't really had any openings. But you're going to get to a point here with these numbers where it really only takes one. Jake Funk getting a carry here to tilt all the Akers and Michelle over bettors here. He does gain 8. It's going to be 4th and 14. The Rams sort of in a, I call it a chilly draw, back when Childress was the coach of the Vikings, and he would run a draw on 3rd down and long basically every single time to Chester Taylor. That was a chilly draw to Jake Funk, which is gaining 8. And obviously forcing a punt here. Murray backed up again, which Murray backed up has been maybe the Rams' best offense of the day. We wonder, you wonder if, he can sort of get any sort of work done here, starting at their own 10-yard line. Again, a touchdown before the half would be huge here. It's not been unprecedented. The Rams last week gave up a 17-point lead at home to the San Francisco 49ers, a team who had a worse record than the Cardinals this year, right? So this is not unprecedented. I know, we want to sort of keep people into this game, but that is something that's possible. The betting markets don't really believe that right now, as we have the live line is minus 20.5. The Cardinals, if you wanted to bet them live, are basically plus 1260. So almost 13-1 if you think that the Cardinals can come back and win this football game. Total on the game 47.5, right where Austin Gayle. I call it the Austin Gayle equilibrium. Now it's 46.5. So our friend Brad Spielberger, who just was on, maybe smarting a little bit there. You do get a false start by the Arizona Cardinals. Good Lord, this has been a rough one so far for the Birds here. As they're
the
not
guest Polis middle is like wide open right now, though. I do think Austin Gayle based had it at 46.5. Brad had it at 50.5. So we are kind of trending at least in that direction. Maybe I should be sweating that out, that 4-point middle out here or something, because that is kind of the one thing that still is pending here. I don't know. Do you like the Cardinals at 20.5, Eric? I mean, I think if you're going to get involved in any spot, you have to think that something has to be productive and pop up here for the Arizona Cardinals offense. Let's
go ahead and put one. I'm going to take a unit and put it on the Cardinals. I don't know, though, man. I'm looking right here, 2nd and 15. Murray just, again, like deer with a head cut off, throwing the ball 2 yards on 1st and 15 to a tight end. I do think the Rams go into a shell here. I do think the biggest, I could be wrong, and obviously, Stafford has disappointed us before. Stafford not to throw an interception right now. How many more throws does Stafford have all game? I feel like if we look at these passing props right now, you have completions, and both guys have
17.
6.
Yes, 17 and a half, 16 and a half completions. Basically, this is kind of where we were at. Not necessarily in the same exact spot as yesterday with Jimmy Garoppolo, when we were like, how many more attempts and passing completions is he going to have? 4 or whatever. And then the very next play, he threw the interception. So I don't want to mush this one completely, but we do have him at basically 16 and a half passing completions.
All right, I'm gonna put a unit on Stafford under 16 and a half, minus 108. We're gonna do that here. Stafford at under 16 and a half completions, minus 108. I'm watching Murray right now. He can't complete a ball, and if I'm on the other side with McVay, I'm putting this. This game. Murray 6 of 16. The 6 that he has completed are not impressive at all. We get a 3rd down here. He's dropping into his end zone. He's trying to escape.
Another dump off to Rondale Moore, basically. I mean, I would like to see his actual air yards completed right now, because I think he's still negative air yards completed. I mean, the Rondale Moore one, obviously, dump off. But he has 4 receptions, basically, and no one else has any semblance of offense.
So somebody, let's look at the YouTube chat. Somebody roasting me here for good reason. I combined chicken with its head cut off with deer in the headlights, with deer with its head cut off. Look, I did grow up in Minnesota. I'm not saying I did not hit. I did not hit a deer with my car when I grew up. Look, that is certainly something there. The negative 1.28 EPA per play for Kyler. Basically, every time he drops back to pass, you're giving up you're giving up a point and a quarter. That's not great. This game looks. I mean, this is worse than Philadelphia's performance yesterday.
100%. It is way worse. I think you actually expected it a little bit more. Obviously, the line move and everything did move in both the Eagles and the Cardinals' direction. But to get down to a field goal difference, like these teams look polar opposites right now. I could not figure out why the total is not moving off of 46.5 though. Is it basically like a field position situation or something like that? Because this has been locked on between like a 46.5, 48.5 point total, and we haven't seen really any offense whatsoever this quarter, right? I mean, obviously we have the Kyler Murray pick 6 situation, but other than that, this has been bad. I don't know. I don't see how you can get involved with the over. I do think the under is still a smash bet here, I would say. So
yeah, I'm gonna actually take it a little bit here. 47
getting on the Austin Gayle and Ben Brown train here.
47.5 is available offshore. I just took a little bit of that. It's minus 112.
Yeah, it's also available at DraftKings.
Yeah,
46.5 at FanDuel. So
I mean, do we think that? I mean, is there, like, watching the first half of this game, right? If you're Cliff Kingsbury, right, and here's another reason why I kind of like under in this game right now. The Rams are going to get the ball to end this quarter, right? Basically, we have 4th and 9 at the Arizona 11. If they get a good punt here, the Rams could basically sit on the ball here, and then they get the ball to start the third quarter and take half the quarter just with the football. And
right.
and there's really no incentive. Like, there is an incentive for them to score, obviously, but the team that could run this score up a little bit and get this total into range is the Cardinals. But right now, they're not going to have the next 2 possessions of the game. And so you have to be cognizant of that. By the way, we do want to shout out, so the sharp bettors, right? And there was somebody in the YouTube comments who was sort of making fun of the prognosticators who all had Arizona. I will say it's not just prognosticators. The number legit moved from 4.5 to 3. So there's people with big money, and the same people with big money who bet the Eagles down from 9.5 to 7. Granted. But the big money that moves markets should be respected, and it did move this total from 49 or 50 down to 49, 49.5 and 50 down to 49 pregame. So kudos to them on the total. Maybe out to lunch a little bit on the Murray bets. Although again, Arizona, I mean, I guess wrote for Peter King, I think week 5 or so, about the Cardinals going to LA and killing the Rams early in the season. So something has happened during the course of the season that has made that less likely. As the Rams have looked completely, have outclassed the Arizona Cardinals tonight. No doubt about it. Here.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do think I probably downplayed like the DeAndre Hopkins injury situation with the Arizona Cardinals, but losing him has had an absolutely dramatic effect on their offense, and they have not looked anywhere close to as productive as they did before Kyler Murray kind of came back from injury. So I think that is probably like the one thing I would really point to. Obviously, he matters quite a bit in this particular offense, even with the spread situation, the spread scheme out there. But this has been bad. This is really bad. I don't know. I'm just pounding the under right now. Every time I can find it at 47.5, I've just been hitting it way too much. So
there's a couple good questions. So if we want to look at the YouTube, somebody asked me, Eric, have you ever graded a player in a game for PFF? I was back in 2016. I did grade special teams. Now, my PhD is in math. I don't grade the players. I just apply algorithms to the grades at this point. Both Ben and I are in those shoes. We are not in the player evaluation game right now for PFF. But those are good questions to ask because, again, as our company grows, we're going to be doing less and less sort of there are fewer people that are going to be doing everything. Gone are the days of Steve Palazzolo, for example, grading every single game and then doing every single podcast as well. But he was a champion sort of back in the day. Austin Gayle, pound the under for the boys. We do have a little bit of a fumble-age there with Michelle on the second carry, but he does pick it up. But now we have third and kind of medium there. Or maybe not a fumble, but just a tackle for a loss by Chandler Jones. So it's going to be 3rd and 5 from the LA 47. It does not look well. LA doesn't have their timeouts either, so that's an important distinction. But LA does probably. I mean, what a great outcome here for the under would be basically LA, sort of completing a ball here short of the first down, taking it to basically nothing, and then punting, and then Arizona's saying, look, this is this is over, and taking a knee and going into halftime and trying to regroup. But Stafford on 3rd and 5 throws, and it's dropped by Tyler Higbee. Stafford on the money on that play. Higbee drops it, and so the Rams have to punt here with 46 seconds left. Again, they have 1 timeout. Cardinals have all 3. Obviously, we preach being aggressive. It'd be interesting to see what the Cardinals do with 3 timeouts here, with the risk of obviously Murray throwing another interception here. He is 7 of 17 for 28 yards and 2 interceptions. The biggest quarterback in the league, Big Ben Roethlisberger yesterday. Similar stat line in the first half. The smallest quarterback in the league, Kyler Murray, 7 of 17, 28 yards. In a stat line that would make Big Ben blush, I would say, in the first half here. Okay. Now, this is back to something we talked about yesterday, Ben. We want to sort of educate our viewers here a little bit here. As you go into halftime, unless you think something's going to happen here, basically let's wait on betting until we get to the halftime markets. Why is that, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, because basically you're going to get a much better price than you are going to get if you find something in the in-game market. We're usually looking at spread differential right around 30 to 35 cents in any of these in-game markets. Typically, especially at the legal sports books, you're going to get mostly minus 110 on either side, so only a 20 cent big price as you look at the halftime line. So waiting right now, especially, is definitely the most likely and logical thing to do if you're looking at any sort of bets. But it's dark out in these streets right now, right? I mean, I've been trying to scan it. I think, today has given me a lot more opportunities to scan some of these betting markets. I have gotten a few down just in spots, we've had guests on the line, but right now I'm not feeling good about anything except for the under, which is continuously dropped down. And Austin, Gayle, and I, and now Eric are all feeding our family, at least with, closing line value about 4 points, looking at a 43.5 point in-game total right now. So we're going to get basically, 21.5 probably is where we will be at halftime, maybe 22. So yeah, this is tough. I maybe I'm crazy for saying this, but I don't mind back in the Arizona Cardinals if I can get them at like a plus 21.5 point spread or something. I think that might show somewhere, given the fact that the Rams are going to have this ball to start the second half, but we'll see here. I don't know. Is anything jumping out at you, Eric? I know we're probably starting to get some of these passing yardage and passing touchdown and receiving and rushing yardage props at halftime as well. Is there anything that's kind of showing up for you? Yeah,
looking here at the live lines on FanDuel, notice the lines are much bigger than 110 on both sides, which is why if you want to go to a different book and actually look for the second half lines, right now you see the Los Angeles Rams are plus a half a point, minus 110. Again, that's reflected in the live line of being minus 20.5. Total right now, live total is 23 minus 110. Remember yesterday I took a live San Francisco over 10.5. That's currently where everybody is. So the Rams 10.5 point total second half, plus 105 to the over, minus 135 to the under. The Cardinals, people are a little bit more bullish here, but 10.5 to the over, 10.5 points, minus 110 to the over, minus 120 to the under. There. So that's where your line is. Basically, people don't think the Cardinals are going to lose by 21. They think that the Rams are going to take the foot off the gas. I tend to agree with them. As you said, Stafford did not complete a ball in the second quarter. At least, no, he completed a ball in the second quarter. He didn't complete a ball since the second touchdown, right, where he threw that wheel route to Odell. But again, just 6 completions out of 9 attempts for 93 yards and a touchdown. Out of Stafford is still a good first half for sure, and a drop and a missed throw, and they might have 35 points on the board here. But let's look at some of these player props here, see if we find any value. Right now, Stafford's completion, I took it under 16.5. It's now under 14.5. So that's a decent place to be. This might be a place where if I don't like that number, I could get a middle, and if this lands on 15 or 16 completions, I get both bets, and I just pay the juice. If that doesn't happen, the interceptions we don't have. Yeah, Stafford under 0.5 interceptions is minus 440. If I wanted to get off that one, I could get a nice payoff of plus 290 if I were to lose the original bet. But I don't think Stafford's going to throw an interception here. As far as rushing props here, Ben, we don't see them quite yet up there. I do think that's probably because of, the game script. I think that there's probably some evaluation of what that's going to look like, sort of moving forward here. But yeah, that's a little bit, of an issue there with Connor having 14 and Edmonds having 14. They gave Eno Benjamin carries at the end of the first half there to relieve both of those guys. In the receiving game, we do have some receiving props. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Cooper Kupp currently at 41.5. AJ Green 23.5. Rondale Moore 37.5. Van Jefferson 6.5. Christian Kirk 29.5. Odell Beckham Jr. 68.5. And Tyler Higbee 47.5. So essentially, I mean, when you look at this, it's pricing in basically no passing in the second half for the Los Angeles Rams. I think that what you want to do if you are going to, sort of play in these markets on the Rams side is if you like the Arizona Cardinals, then you can like some of these overs for passing props. Because I think the only way in which any of these overs for the passing props hit is if the Cardinals get a quick stop to start the second half, score a touchdown, and put some pressure on the Rams. I think otherwise it's just going to be, let's say the Rams drive it out to the 50-yard line, 40-yard line, stall out, kick the ball to the 10. I think this game's basically over. And as such, I think the Rams continue to run the football. And I also think that's why you're seeing these rushing props not really get the light of day since, late second quarter.
Yeah, definitely. So we basically have, a few player total receptions yards, player total receptions at FanDuel as well. Cooper Kupp, notably, like you said, 3.5, minus 188 to the over, plus 140 to the under. But I kind of like what you said, right? I mean, if the Cardinals get a stop here right away, go in and score a touchdown, that's the only real spot where we're going to see the Rams potentially have to throw whatsoever. So I'm siding with you. I do think, Matthew Stafford under 14.5 completions makes a whole lot of sense to me. I also don't mind trying to, not get on a Polish middle here, maybe go under Cooper Kupp, under 3.5 at plus 140 as well, because there's just been nothing from the Arizona Cardinals mindset that makes me think they're going to be at all productive here in the second half. So I don't know. I'm expecting a pretty long, healthy, sustained drive. Riding Sony Michel, riding Cam Akers here in the second half. If they go in and score a touchdown, that might be pretty much it for this game on Monday Night Football.
Okay, let's go to the YouTube comments, and I actually kind of want to, ask the people that are faithful here, that are watching the steady stream of folks we're getting here. I had a really good one. YoPro 3 or YPro 3. Mike McCarthy should replace Cliff Kingsbury. I see no lies right now. At least McCarthy's team had 7 points at halftime. Cliff Kingsbury's had 0. The AJ Green over seems like an okay bet. I do agree. I wonder, obviously it's only going to take sort of an in route, a couple in breaking routes for him to get over that number. This is a great question. Is Kurt Warner still the greatest quarterback to play for these two teams? Yes. Let's think about it for a sec, right? So the Arizona Cardinals were the St. Louis Cardinals. Prior to that, they had Neil Lomax, who had a great career. Neil Lomax randomly retired like a top 10 quarterback of all time in terms of pass rating, but he's not as good as Kurt Warner. Then you had Jake Plummer, Jake the Snake, no doubt. Not as good as Kurt Warner. Then obviously you had Kurt Warner replacing Josh McCown and Matt Leinart. And then since then you had Carson Palmer. Carson Palmer had a great 2015, but on balance not as good as Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner, the best quarterback in Cardinals history. And then, of course, for the Rams, it's hard to argue. You had Jim Everett for a while. He took your team to the NFC title game, but no one's going to put him above Warner. And then, obviously, since, you had Goff and Stafford, Goff took a team to the Super Bowl, but no one's going to put him ahead of Warner. So Kurt Warner, the best quarterback in the history of both of these two teams, is a lock. Great question there. What's the difference between Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts? I mean, Kyler Murray was just a better quarterback in college, right? Better completions, better PFF grade. I think Hurts was a good player, certainly showed a lot of leadership, certainly, not a bad prospect, but not as good of a player. I think it's
I think Murray has a much higher ceiling, right? In both rushing and passing than Jalen Hurts can probably offer, both in college, and right now in their NFL careers for sure.
Absolutely. So, does Kyler need Warner's silver puffer jacket to score? Maybe. If he was like a little Michelin man running through the line of scrimmage there, that could be is something that works. Let's go ahead and for those in the chat, those that have stayed faithful to us the whole show, give us your favorite second half bets here. And Ben and I will pick the one that's our favorite, and we will go ahead and place a wager on that as well. So let's go ahead and look at favorite second half bets in the chat here.
I think we got to incentivize them with good bets. So if we choose it too, we could give them, 25% of the profit or somty like that, or maybe 50% of the profit.
Yeah,
cut them in a little bit, right? Get the loyal listeners.
Yeah, maybe we'll have something like a PFF, a month of PFF Edge or a month of PFF Elite or something like that could be in the cards. Obviously, we have to run that by Austin or something. Cards -0.5 second half. Rams +2 or +2.5. I think. Ertz over 35.5. So this was an interesting one because, folks took Dalton Schultz yesterday at halftime, and that was the right move. When Dak Prescott needed sort of his nookie blankie during the second half, he was throwing those out routes to Dalton Schultz. Does Kyler Murray do that with Zach Ertz and possibly Zach Ertz's last NFL game? Kyler rushes 50-plus sprinkle. Cam Akers, second half touchdown score. 7-2 on DraftKings. I like that one. As well. More boring the game, the more degenerate the bets. Yes, that's why we're all here, folks. Absolutely no doubt. Cardinals over 12.5. Where are you seeing Cardinals over 12.5? I think you can get it over 10.5 in some places. Because I would gladly take under 10.5 or 12.5 if I got that, right? Because you might see a 2-point conversion there. You might see some, messed up stuff there. Matt Prater over 1.5 points. Stafford under 193.5 passing yards does feel like a good one. Maybe live bet Kyler Murray getting a contract extension. I really like that one. Stafford under 24.5 yards rushing. Where are you finding this? What's the number on that?
There's no way that exists.
That's like what, -50 Bovada.
You can always claim Bovada, and then it's just like, maybe it is true. I don't know for sure, but
okay. FanDuel offering Los Angeles Rams -4.5 and under 42.5 at -105. So basically, you're just betting under 42.5 at -105. I mean, that seems like a bad bet here, especially if you're parlaying those two together. That doesn't seem great. Look, the one that I really like the most. We're gonna go ahead and we'll have somebody, Austin, if you're still in the chat, give this person an email address or that they can email with this. But I really like. Let me look at. I really like Daniel Schmall under Stafford 193.5 passing yards. I'm going to go against my pregame bet just because, again, I think the game script is going to dictate this. I think this Daniel Schmall's bet of Stafford under 193.5 passing yards to me feels like the best one. We'll go ahead and put a half a unit on that. Me and Ben here. Ben, you have access to FanDuel where you are at. Go ahead.
I just locked it in right here, so we're good to go.
Lock it up there. Eli gets fined by the FCC is -200, of course. Bet 365 has a total of 44.5. That seems like a good opportunity as well. I'm seeing offshore 44.5, -20.5 here. Ben, if we ever do one of these for college football, I do think for halftime we are going to have to do like a bathroom break or something crazy because halftime for college football is like a half hour. At least for the NFL, it's only basically 12 minutes or so. And so we're going to get, Rams Cardinals mercifully back in a relative matter of minutes here. We're going to get Cliff Kingsbury looking like a deer in a headlight.
That's the correct saying, right? That is the correct saying. Deer in the headlights. You got that one. I know. I'm excited because I think we're going to get Taige Seth here, and I think he's going to be overjoyed. College student Matthew Stafford, big time fan. I think we're going to get the best of the best from Taige because this has basically been, as good as expected for what you'd want as far as being a Rams backer, right? So I'm excited for that third quarter interview. I do think there's going to be maybe a few more degenerate bets getting swung here, because I know we're going to ride this one out until the bitter end here. And I'm so thankful, like you said, that the NFL halftime is really only 12 minutes, because we are back and in action already, and it didn't even take that long. So
yeah. So Taige is going to join us in the third quarter. We'll probably wait at least to drive in. I know the second quarter was kind of like marred with some issues with respect to sort of timeouts and reviews and all that stuff. So we got Brad, and the first quarter when we had Austin sort of flew by. So we'll get Taige after basically the first possession here. Taige is one of the interns at PFF this last summer, a Michigan grad or Michigan student actually, and already making his mark substantially on the football analytics community, and a great a great representation of what Michigan is giving us, students and alumni and things like that as part of our work, our group for the better part of a few years now, and Taige is a great representation of that. So we do get Matt Prater with the kick through the end zone there. We get the Rams 1st and 10 from the 25. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. Do the Rams sort of do it up here in the first drive? Do they try to, does Sean McVay take it easy on Cliff Kingsbury here and sort of say, look, we're just going to run the ball a bunch of times and get you back to Arizona, Glendale safely, back to that bachelor pad that you have, back to maybe shaving whatever that beard is that you have going on? Or do they take some shots here to make sure that they're still sharp going into next week against Tampa Bay? We get a Sony Michel run on first down, so maybe we know a little bit of that answer there. Live props here, we do not have any live rushing props. I think FanDuel is basically giving up right now on giving us live rushing props because of the way in which the game state is going. Note Boom is at left tackle for the Rams. I think giving you a little bit of a taste as to how the Rams are going to approach the second half, by the way, Ben. Yeah,
definitely. I agree with you. And I do agree. I think FanDuel's kind of mailing it, especially from the rushing yardage prop perspective. But I don't know. So if we look ahead a little bit, maybe we can, at least preview something. I know you guys didn't get the opportunity to do this on the PFF forecast, but what would you make the line with the Rams heading into Tampa Bay, and what would you need to bet it? What would you need to see to bet it from the Rams perspective right now?
To bet it from the Rams perspective,
Yes.
Man, I would basically need to know that the Cardinals weren't going to score again. That's it. Because I don't think okay, so Stafford's going into shotgun on 3rd and short here. He is by himself, so we're not going to get a run here. The motion Higbee from right to left, and Stafford takes the snap, throws a short pass to Higbee. Higbee's tackled for a gain of 10. And, again, tick, 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 tick. The clock is going to move here. Stafford now up to 103 yards on the day. 7 completions now for Stafford.
We're sweating out that 14.5 point.
16 and a half. Let's not short.
You got 6.5. I got to lock it in now. I don't know if I actually locked it into the chat, but I did say I like that one at halftime to try and get off my same game parlay or cover it a little bit.
Yeah, and we are seeing Stafford with a little bit of a hurry up here. And they are going from the gun now, so we are seeing a little bit of the Rams now. Now he's taking forever, but we did see the live line pop up to 21.5. Incompletion to Cooper Kupp, who is still stuck at 1 catch today. By the way, friends. So that's an incompletion there. Do we see Sony Michel here on 2nd down? Okay, Stafford 7-11, 103. That ball went right through Cooper Kupp's hands and almost intercepted by a Cardinal player. So maybe we see a few more runs here by the Los Angeles Rams, up 21 here. They are in the shot.
Cooper Kupp looks disinterested at best right now.
He looks like Randy Moss after a collection of no carries here. Stafford does complete to Beckham for just 2 yards. A tackle by Byron Murphy. The clock continues to run here. Yeah. Interesting. So the Rams ran the ball a couple times, threw it to get out from their own end, basically, but now are sort of still playing a little bit of offense here, up 21. Stafford now 8 of 12. Cam Akers in the backfield with him, and it's third down. They are sort of hurrying up, but they did hurry up here, and they did get the snap off with a decent amount of time left in the play clock. And we have an incompletion here, intended for, I'm looking here, Byron Murphy was on the coverage, I believe. But anyway, our TV is cutting in and out a little bit. We do have holding, though, on the Cardinals. So this is going to extend the drive for the Rams. Stafford did.
That was a Cooper Kupp. That was a Kupp shot, basically.
Yeah,
so.
Stafford took a big hit on that play. And, that might be Byron Murphy actually, held on to Kupp a little bit down the field, it looked like. And he dropped an interception. So Stafford kind of threw it right to him. So Stafford took a huge hit on the play, and this might be a situation where we end up with, them holding off on Stafford a little bit. He looks banged up after this hit. No penalty on that particular hit, but one to monitor here. Again, we're already seeing the Rams with Andrew Whitworth injured, got back in the game, but now is no longer in the game. We have seen Akers still in there as he's coming back from backwards pass by to Odell, deep shot to Cam Akers, caught 20, 15. Okay, so that's an Odell pass to Cam Akers, and we're inside the red zone here. Odell feeling himself a little bit there with a nice throw down the sideline for 40 to Cam Akers. Okay.
So maybe they'll just put Odell Beckham in at quarterback in the fourth quarter or something, because that was a dime right there. I mean,
yeah, he's a good thrower.
Cam Akers wide open, right?
Until Joe Burrow, I want to say that Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry were the two best passers in the history of LSU coming in the NFL. And obviously Burrow has emerged past that here. Timeout by Los Angeles. Find a guy who likes wasting these timeouts more than Sean McVay. Let's go back to the YouTube and look at a few comments here. Some people, so Buzzy Brusman said his book Live had the Rams at plus 3.5. Somebody asking Stafford or Cousins, viva la difference. That's a pretty good one. Stafford is Cousins, but more fun. Look, like as somebody who specializes in middle of the pack quarterbacks, I sort of agree. I think Stafford's sort of the best version of that kind of quarterback, and it certainly played that way.
Is Goff the worst version of that quarterback then? Is that kind of like the range you're looking at here, or how are you actually going to play that?
I personally think Carson Wentz is the worst of those
version of it
quarterbacks. Yeah, don't you? I mean,
that's what I was trying to figure out, because when you guys were talking about Goff earlier, I was like, I wonder if Eric would actually put him in as like the Kirk Cousins, the low end Kirk Cousins range, and I just don't think he actually quite gets there. But I don't know if Carson Wentz, after his performance this year, should necessarily be in that conversation either. I'm trying to think of what kind of like the low end litmus test would be from me here, and I'm kind of drawing a blank right now. I gotta think on that one. I'll come back to you. So
yeah, you have a completion by Stafford to Kupp for 4 yards. So Kupp now up to 9 yards. Stafford up to 109 yards and 9 completions here. A little underneath 11 minutes in the third quarter. By the way, if you bet Stafford's touchdown prop, it was over 1.5. It was kind of in that minus 180 range or so, under a plus money prop. So if you bet that, you're sort of sweating this out. I just always felt like Stafford, was a touchdown producer. I didn't want to bet that, and he does throw a touchdown here to Cooper Kupp, a fantastic catch against Byron Murphy. For a Rams touchdown, although it hasn't registered on Jesus yet. There we go. And the Rams lead 27-0. Boy, this game, Murray there looking dejected. Do we see more Stafford?
Yes, we're going to see a little bit more Stafford. We're going to get enough of him in the third quarter to at least make sure that, Taige gets to view him in all of his glory live here on the PFF Watch-thon, that's for sure. But, that's obviously not what you want to see whatsoever from being a Cardinals backer, even if you got into them on the second half, up to 24.5 now on the in-game spread, 47.5 point total. We are kind of, nearing that pregame number, close to 49, basically, back to where Austin and I and Eric all locked it in right now. And this is the quintessential drive for the under right here. If the Cardinals go, 3 and out, or if they get to, close to midfield and end up kicking up or, punting, I do think we're pretty damn good about it. But if they put in a touchdown here, this is going to be a little bit of a sweat for the rest of the second half. So we got, we will see what happens. Some live markets, basically. We do have, Kyler Murray, 169.5 passing yards. He is basically at 28. So on DraftKings Sportsbook, you can find him at passing yards prop under 169.5. I do think that is a pretty decent spot to get involved, especially on the under. Again, this is going to come back to basically, how well they perform on this particular drive for that Arizona Cardinals offense, but definitely don't mind that quite a bit. Let's take a look at the rushing and receiving yardage props on DraftKings as well. Looking down a little bit, we do have, AJ Green, 23.5 receiving yards, obviously nowhere close to where he was at on his pregame number. I think he was at like 44.5 right now, looking at, 0 catches basically on 2 targets. So I don't think he's really going to be able to win his match period in the second half whatsoever. So I don't mind the under on AJ Green to go under 23.5 receiving yards. Anybody else, there's not, a ton of value. I do think that, the books in general kind of are projecting this game to basically kind of chop toward the end here. Obviously, things are going to change a little bit. If the Cardinals end up, showing any sort of offensive production on this particular drive, but if they don't, I think we're going to see a lot of close down in-game betting markets happening here right now. So we will see. I know we're having, Eric's getting his microphone situation all set up. We could maybe take a look at, some of more of the YouTube comments and see if there's anything kind of popping up from that perspective. Maybe if anything, people kind of want to, chat about. Do you give Kyler the extension this year? I do think that is a reasonable question. It was a really good spot for, Brad Spielberger to answer, but I do think Kyler Murray, is worth the extension, especially right now. I'm not really putting too much of the blame on him for this one particular outcome against the Rams in the wild card round. I do think they still have the pieces in place to potentially compete for the Super Bowl with Kyler Murray at quarterback, even not on, that rookie wage scale sort of setup. So I'd like him to still probably get the extension here. Odds Cliff Kingsbury gets fired after tonight. I think they're definitely going to run it down here one more season for sure, if not a couple more. I'm still haven't necessarily bought into the Cliff Kingsbury regime in Arizona, but we'll see what happens. We can get a mic check on Eric, see if he's back
Ben,
in
do you
action
have me
here.
back? My back?
We're good. We're good.
Okay,
we're
perfect.
Good, so.
Look, athletes adjust, as George would always say. And we're back. Our great producers there helping us out, Ty and Mike. But we have we have the Cardinals back here. Do we get to see this privilege? We have, I think it's Chase Edmonds in the backfield. The more that we can see Chase Edmonds, the better. Although he gets nothing on first down here, really. I'd like to see Eno Benjamin in this game. For that under that we had on.
What was it 21.5 or 23.5 that you had for James Conner under?
21.5.
He only has two rushing attempts, right? I mean, I feel like you have to feel pretty good about that from a volume perspective alone. Obviously, 11 yards on his one long run, but I do think things are going to move in the right direction for him. I don't think that he's going to get over 23.5, even 21.5 for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and we're going to stand by for Taige as he's going to come in here, so you get to see me full screen. Murray's just has no chance in this one, but he does get Rondale Moore for a completion there. And again, you're sort of Von Miller on the tackle in coverage. Interesting. So you're sort of looking at this from the perspective of, okay, what is the fastest way to zeros if you're betting this under here, because that's really the only thing left. If you have tailed us so far is you have a little bit of unders here on some of the Cardinals rushers. You have a little bit of unders on some of these Los Angeles passing game players. The Cardinals do not appear to be sort of bailing here. And we do have the affable Taige Seth. Taige, as a lifelong Lions fan and a lifelong Stafford fan, it does appear that Matthew Stafford is going to win his first career playoff game. What are the emotions that you have going on right now?
I'm really excited. Well, first of all, excited to be on the better version of the Manning cast here with you two.
Thank you.
But I just I've waited 13 years to see him win a playoff game, and he's actually going to do it today. Like it's super exciting. There's going to be a lot of talk about how the Lions couldn't win a playoff game with Stafford in his first year in LA. He goes out and wins one convincingly.
Yeah, and this is very un-Lions-like, right? And I think you're a great Lions fan in that you love the team, but you're not how do I say this, delusional about the team, right? So this is a very un-Lions type win, right? Where Stafford has only 10 completions right now. He's got the 2 touchdown passes. He's looked great. That he's missed some throws. He missed one throw, but for the most part, he's either had passes dropped or he's been accurate. And he's been pretty good in the pocket, but his team has just helped him out, right? They got the pick 6. The defense has been wonderful. You really haven't. The Cardinals haven't even crossed the 50 really all game, and it's just one of those where that never came. And granted, they're the favorite in this game. They closed a 3-point favorite. The Lions were never favorites in the playoffs under Stafford, and so he's just in a different environment, right? And it's fun to see that because you sort of you wait for the longest time for him to have a situation that's going to help him as opposed to a situation he's got to overcome.
Yeah, that's perfectly said. Just to have the ability that they ran the ball with in the first quarter today, he basically never had that in any game in Detroit. And then not having to do anything, having a defense that can actually get off the field is such a difference than the Matt Patricia defenses that he was having to work with these past 3 years. So yeah, it's just been a lot more help tonight, which is nice to see for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So as somebody who likes to dabble a little bit in these games as a bettor, where were you pregame on this game, and what did you think? Because going in, it was a 4.5-point spread at open, and then a lot of people liked the Cardinals, and I can understand why a lot of people like the Cardinals. The Cardinals were 6-0 straight up and against the spread this year as underdogs. They won in LA the first matchup. They beat Dallas a couple weeks ago in a game where they were 6.5-point underdogs. So there were a lot of reasons that Arizona could pull this game off, and people are buying into that. But ultimately, where were you, pregame on this one, and what is this game shook about your priors coming into a game like this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when it opened at 4.5, I thought that was a pretty fair line between the two teams, considering the Rams were playing at home and the Cardinals' offense hasn't really looked as good as it was, when Hopkins was there and the Rams were relatively healthy, other than the safeties. But when it moved down to 3.5, that's when I started to get a feeling that the Rams were more likely to cover that. It was, a point. It didn't go over a critical value, but still moving a point, in the direction of the team with the worst passing offense. I thought, even though Kyler might be a better quarterback than Stafford because of Kupp and McVay and stuff like that, the Rams had a better passing offense coming into that game, and that's usually what I like to bet on when comparing two different teams.
Yeah, and the interesting thing, and I really analyzed this team back when they played the first time because I was doing sort of a guest article, and one of the things that I noticed, and this is something where hopefully with really smart folks like you working for us, we can sort of measure this even better than we have in the past. But DeAndre Hopkins was not getting pumped the same amount of targets that he was last year, which was 30-something% of their target share. It was sort of in the teens this year, and yet I thought that was a sign of strength, obviously going into this going into the season, right, where they're not using Hopkins as much. They're not necessarily having to sort of be desperate with him in the passing game. And yet, obviously, him being gone hurts, even if he wasn't getting all those targets. And I think obviously the best thing is to think about, okay, how much space is this guy taking up? How much value is that space worth? And why does a guy like A.J. Green look great when Hopkins is on the field and look terrible when things are not opened up for him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's, I really think that's the next step for football analytics is measuring the gravity that players have, on the football field. Like, you even look at it tonight with Cooper Kupp. Like, he's only had a couple catches, but, OBJ scored on that first touchdown, the goal line fade, because, like, the safety moved over the Cooper Kupp side. Like, that's the gravity that he attracts. And then DeAndre Hopkins was the same way for the Cardinals, attracting a lot of gravity to his side. And then you have to replace all of his routes with A.J. Green. And it just doesn't work out. Like, I think the Cardinals are really wanting it right now.
Yeah, so about 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Murray finally completes the ball. It's about 23 yards to Christian Kirk, and down to the 14-yard line. And then we had a little bit of a kerfuffle here. Aaron Donald getting called for unnecessary roughness. So this is first and goal. The Cardinals' first real chance of scoring in this game. First and goal from the Rams 7. We'll see, without Aaron Donald on the field now that he's out, whether or not the Cardinals can punch it in here. This would be, obviously the first touchdown in the postseason in the Murray, Cliff Kingsbury, what do you call it, era, I guess. And they go to James Conner on a pass here for 5 yards, sorry. So it's second and goal from the 2. As we reset here, the live lines, and again, these aren't as, these are pretty degenerate, but right now the Rams are minus 20.5, minus 130 to the Rams. It's basically 20-1 that the Cardinals will win this game on the market, and that's actually been taken down here. The live total on this game, where do you see it at, Ben? 48.5?
Yeah, I'm seeing that basically like 48.5 right now for the game total on FanDuel. 48.5 basically. It does look like we have some sort of maybe touchdown here on the second and goal from the 2 basically. So I don't know. This was basically what we got a James Conner touchdown. Basically the worst of the worst. We got a touchdown and we got James Conner 2 more yards, Eric. So he's up to 4 carries, 19 rushing yards. We are closing in on 21.5 here right now.
James Conner, by the way,
not a great outcome.
James Conner, by the way, so let's, and I know this is going to look different from an EPA perspective, but James Conner, just from the random football statistics this season, James Conner had 18 touchdowns this year. And somehow, everybody's like, we didn't need James Conner. We drafted, Najee Harris and all that kind of thing. James Conner, 3.7 yards a carry, but 18 touchdowns. That seems like a pretty fun confluence of events there. Murray throws to Wesley for a 2-point conversion, so the total is now 36. And so the question becomes, if you live bet under with Austin Gayle or live bet over with Brad Spielberger in this one, whether or not you are going to end up, showing out here at all, because this is at 36 and 19 minutes left in this game with the Rams getting the ball. In the last drive, the Rams seemed very happy to run the football, but also to have Stafford get that one more touchdown. Do they stay the same way here with this game now a 20-point game? And currently Arizona covering the second half spread of a half a point here. Taige, introduce the audience a little bit. You have not been on, you've been on, I think your star has risen tremendously this year. But introduce the audience a little bit to who you are. We obviously introduced you as a Lions fan, Taige Seth, but obviously that's that's very much not the full picture. Tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of what you're working on with us and what you've been working on, as a part of many groups as you're a part of Michigan's football sports analytics group as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To introduce myself, I'm Taige. I'm currently a junior at the University of Michigan, and I'm doing information analysis here. And what kind of got me into football analytics and stuff was joining the Michigan Football Analytics Society, which is a club here. It's a lot of us. We get together and we talk football, and we kind of learn how to code with NFL data and stuff like that. And so that was really my first step into getting my feet wet with football analytics, and I loved it from the very beginning. And then it kind of got taken to another level this past summer when I was given the opportunity to be an intern in Eric's department, the research and development department at PFF, and that was like a great experience for me. I learned a ton about building models and what it takes to be a good data analyst and stuff like that. It's not just like coding and putting graphs together. You really have to make sure it'll make sense for teams, consumers, and all that type of stuff. So that's been great experience so far, and I was really glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it's so fun. I remember a time when I was in school and I was in grad school and I was asking my advisor, I was like, well, could I even get in this school now 4 years later? And he goes, no, everybody's better now. And it's like you look at a junior in college, you have so many, there's opportunities obviously, but football analytics is so much further along now than when Ben or I were in college. And it gives me great joy to sort of see the opportunities that folks have, and even more joy to see like folks like you, Taige, taking advantage of those opportunities and really advancing the game. I mean, a lot of insights have been generated just by asking good questions, and as you said, it's more than just being sort of a genius with the data. You have to be, I think, you have to love football. You have to ask good questions, and I don't think you can ask good questions without loving the game. And you certainly do, and I think it's a hallmark of a lot of people at PFF. As far as that is concerned. So we get to 4:11 left in the third quarter. The Rams now have the ball at their own 31. James Conner looks like he's limping, Ben, and I don't mean to be a jerk, but look, we have a live under on the line. And
yeah, we never want to root for injuries, but
don't.
I mean, there's always situations
that
where
bad.
players deserve more rest, right? I mean, James Conner, obviously, like you said, 18 total touchdowns on the season. This might be a decent spot to rest him for the rest of the game.
That looked bad, and that was how my high school career ended. By the way, I was twisted up like that, and somebody pulled me back, and it would be illegal now. I got horse collar tackled. Before it was called a horse collar tackle, and I injured my ankle badly. No one cares, but that's sort of how it happened. And look, I think I'm an authority to say that James Conner should sit the rest of the game out for the sake of his health, but also our bets. As you sort of look at the live stuff here, Taige, Cardinals 18-1 to come back and win this game. Cam Akers, a person who did not take the year off because he was hurt. Jesus, comes back with an Achilles. Achilles has been a running back killer in the past, but has also taken a full season for most players. Cam Akers is like making Jerry Rice blush with coming back from a season-ending injury in 15 weeks or so. What do you think? Let's move forward here, because this game is clearly sort of the competitive phase of this game is not necessarily still here for us. Although Stafford does take a deep shot with play action, and he does hit Van Jefferson for a big gain. What is going on, as Ben is going to say here. Stafford wants to hit that over for his yardage prop there. That was a dime for Stafford. Okay, Taze, let's take a step back here. Tampa Bay, LA. In Tampa Bay next week. That's going to be the Sunday game, I believe, the one before. That's going to be Chris's game. Which means that Ben and I will not be live streaming that because we don't want to take viewers away from NBC, because that ultimately is what ends up paying our salaries a little bit. And what do you think about that game? Let's talk about that game as we sort of move forward here. Where do you think that one ends up landing for Tampa Bay and LA as we try to crown an NFC champion again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you think back to that week 3 matchup when Tampa traveled to Los Angeles and both teams were 2 points going into that game, the Rams opened as 1-point favorites in that game and it ended up closing at, I think, Tampa 1.5. And so as we've gone over the course of the season, I think that Tampa has had more injuries and more things that could shift the line in the Rams' favor throughout the past couple of weeks, with losing Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown and having some of their offensive line banged up and stuff like that. So I think with home field advantage and the Rams having to come off of a Monday night game and travel to the East Coast and stuff like that. I think, that should be worth about 2 points for Tampa. So I think we could see it, Tampa 3.5 in that range basically for the spread of that game.
Okay, so what you're making that game Tampa 3.5?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so you're
I think
much
so.
more on the side of George Shahuri than I am. Cam Akers, by the way, a really strong run there, tackled by Thompson, a really strong run there, but banged up there is a secondary player for the Arizona Cardinals. It's going to be first and goal with about a minute left in the third quarter. Ben, do we want to reevaluate? Do we want to bet under again? Do we want to sort of hold tight here? Stafford certainly 11 completions. I think after this drive, you might not see another pass attempt for Stafford.
That definitely has to be the hope, right? No more passing attempts from Matthew Stafford, but yeah, we're up to 53.5 on the game total. Things are dicey. I don't know. I think we need to get Taige. We need to get a live bet, side from Taige here right now, because we've had two other guys both taking opposite sides on the total. I'm wondering if Taige wants any part of the total, or if he's still, riding basically with something else here in this in-game market.
So the live total is at 56.5. Is that what you're saying?
It's 53.5 on. I've seen it on FanDuel. I'm not seeing anything on DraftKings, and Caesar says it at 53.5. 22.5 point spread for Arizona basically is at plus 23.5 minus 128 on FanDuel, plus 22.5 minus 115 on Caesar. So we'll see. I don't know. I think the fact that we know that Cliff Kingsbury is probably going to go for it here, go for two if they do get another touchdown, definitely influences what you like in the spread market. But I'm curious. We got to get at least one bet from you here before we get you out of here too early. So
yeah, total wise, I think I like the under there because like what you mentioned, like they're probably not going to have Stafford throw another pass. McVay has nightmares about him throwing pick sixes. Like he wakes up in a sweat, like thinking about that happening in a playoff game. So now that they're up comfortably, he'll just run the ball, and the Rams have had success with it. So why not doing that? So yeah, I like the under at the 53.5 there.
There we go. What jersey are you wearing?
I'm wearing my Stafford Rams jersey.
It looks pretty legit. It's got the decals on the top and everything else. You love to see it. So we'll see. So are you going to be betting? I know you're a big, Bill Belichick, Tom Brady fan. So will you be siding with the Rams here if they open up at that 3.5 point spread, plus 3.5 against Tampa Bay next week? And are you going Rams or are you going Tampa Bay?
At 3.5, I think I'd take Tampa Bay there. Tom Brady's playoff defenses are unmatched. They're up there with the 85 Bears when it comes to shutting down opponents. So,
right. They've ran. I mean, obviously, like the secondary is getting really healthy and stuff like that too. But I do think, watching that game yesterday against Philadelphia, I do think that a lot more credit needs to go towards that Tampa Bay defense than what basically all the prognosticators were kind of giving them credit for. Because didn't see a ton offensively from Tampa Bay that I really was, fully buying into. But defensively, I think they look, basically where they were at last year when they won the Super Bowl. So that's definitely concerning, I would say, from a Rams perspective. But I do think, the Rams' performance defensively here has also been pretty spot on in containing Kyler Murray. Wouldn't you say so?
Oh yeah, for sure. But it seems like one of those games where, the Bucs basically knew they were going to win yesterday from like the first play of the game, but the Rams kind of had to like show a lot in this game and kind of go all out. And now they get like a one less day of rest as they have to travel to the East Coast. So I don't know, it feels like a lot of things are stacked up for Tampa in that game. Do you feel the same way about that?
I do feel the same way about that actually quite a bit. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm probably lower than you on Tom Brady in general. I think I've probably been lower than the market on Tom Brady and Bill Belichick for a couple of years here. So I don't know. I'm kind of encouraged by this, Los Angeles Rams performance here. I do think that they look like they can actually compete. Do you think they make for a worthwhile bet on some Super Bowl odds here as we head into the divisional round? Or are you still kind of waiting to get your hopes up on a Matthew Stafford Lombardi Trophy hoist here basically happened at the end of 2021.
That would be most emotional night of my life.
Really?
Stafford has the Lombardi Trophy. But no, I don't see it yet. What I thought was funny today, actually, I sent to Eric was, I was looking at the DraftKings Super Bowl odds, and the Rams this morning had better odds to make the Super Bowl than the Bengals did, even though the Rams haven't even advanced to like the divisional round yet.
Right.
So I just thought that was like interesting, like how the market was like really valuing the Rams, especially since they have to go travel and play Tampa Bay, who's like a really good team, and then the Bengals, have to go play Titans, who are like a good team but not on Tampa's level. So it was interesting to see the difference between the Super Bowl odds there.
Yeah, it is interesting because I think Cincinnati got a pretty decent draw, all things considered, right? Obviously needing to beat Las Vegas at home. They did do that, and then they get what everyone is basically considering to be the most susceptible, number one seed that we've had in quite some time here with the Tennessee Titans. So if they get there, then they really only have to beat one of Buffalo or Kansas City. And I think any team coming out of the AFC that only has to beat one of those teams is obviously in a much better spot than having to go beat both Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, which is probably what's going to be the case here for the next 3 to 5 years for everybody else. So we'll see. I don't know. It's been pretty interesting.
I have to say, if Stafford goes to Tampa Bay and wins Sunday next week, I will probably have to. There's an injury.
You're flying Taige to Green Bay, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there's an injury on the field. There's an injury on the field right now, and so we're talking through a lot of this stuff right now. It does look like somebody's going off on a stretcher, which is of course not. Our thoughts are with the Cardinals player who's currently injured right now. But Taige, if Stafford goes on the road and wins in Tampa Bay, the Rams season, no matter what they set themselves out for, has been a success. And I think I probably have to eat some crow there. But we're going to let you go here. Promote yourself, Taige, so that we can get you some followers as Matthew Stafford makes no doubt for his rushing prop here with a nice little run to the sideline. Go ahead and promote your Twitter and where we can find your articles on PFF.
Yeah, thanks for letting me do this. Yeah, my Twitter is at TEJFB Analytics, so Taige FB Analytics, and it has like Matthew Stafford Apologist or something in the bio. So if you click on that one, that's the right one. And then if you just Google Taige Seth PFF, my articles page will pop up, so you can read through some of the stuff that I've worked on and me and Ben have worked on together throughout last summer and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm overstating it when I say that Taige is one of, if not the most impressive young minds in football analytics. So we really appreciate having you on. And we really, and frankly, this game has been kind of a snoozer. But I will say the positive is you get to see your guy, Matthew Stafford, win a playoff game today. Assuming that they hang on to a 20-point lead with 1 quarter left to go. Taige, thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of the night and get some sleep so that you can study up for your classes tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Sad I have to go back to school after a night like this, but that's okay. And yeah, anyone watching in the chat, make sure to drop a happy birthday for Eric.
Oh, thank you.
There, so he can enjoy that. But yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Taige.
Fun.
So we do catch a little bit of a break here with what's going to happen as we go into the fourth quarter, because it did look like with that Cam Akers run, and it did look. With the offensive holding penalty, it looks like Budda Baker was the player, unfortunately. Well, all players, of course, but like Budda Baker was the player who was unfortunately taken off on a stretcher. There was a holding penalty on that play. Then there was a few, it was a 3rd down and 1, and Akers got absolutely knocked over by J.J. Watt. So we're going to have a field goal attempt here, which if you do have the 46.5, right, if you're Austin Gayle there, right, we're at 36 right now, 10 points the rest of the game is a reasonable ask of a fourth quarter like this. And so you still could get there. But I do like the number Taige got a lot better, which is 53.5, which puts you sort of firmly in that sort of, 36 right now. So, basically, a little bit, you're in a little bit of a better position there. Ben, what do you think? What do you think we're going to see here in this fourth quarter? Because the Rams are clearly kind of like playing off, calling off the dogs a little bit. James Conner's injured, so maybe that live prop might end up hitting. The Stafford live unders might hit the under 16.5, the under 193 and a half. But this game, we could see Murray just bust out a few runs here and go over a prop, for example. That some people have bought into. Current passing yardage for Kyler Murray, 74 yards. Like I said before, making Big Ben blush.
Yeah, that is it's bad, right? I do think I had a conversation, or I had a question basically in the YouTube comments when you were off with your microphone, but it was like, do you extend Kyler Murray after this game, right? I definitely still think you do. I don't think this is entirely going to be all on Kyler Murray. If I was trying to assign, what we talk about on the PFF forecast, the pie chart of blame, basically, I would probably give very little to Kyler Murray right now, but this is not what you wanted to see if you were trying to hopefully build, some sort of, build off something to basically get to winning an NFC championship game and getting to the actual Super Bowl from an Arizona Cardinals perspective. So pretty disappointing. I don't know. I don't love anything in the in-game market right now. I have been monitoring it pretty closely here. Not a lot, I would say. Maybe a Zach Ertz over 23.5 receiving yards seems pretty low. He's at 5 right now, basically 18.5 more yards. I do think he's going to be the guy. If the Cardinals are, successful offensively in the fourth quarter, it's going to be because of Zach Ertz. So I think that's maybe the only spot that I'd really be leaning on. Everything else kind of looks like an under for me, right? I mean, Odell Beckham Jr., 54 receiving yards. At FanDuel, right now, his receiving yards prop is at 54.5, plus 138, minus 186 on the under. So there's the whole entire market is pricing in the fact that the Rams aren't going to basically do anything from a passing standpoint in the fourth quarter, and I do think you kind of got to probably buy into that.
Well, and that's something where, again, when we talk about sort of what is the use of thinking about these things from a betting standpoint, we have to educate the youth. Like, as the game goes on, and we talked about this yesterday when we saw San Francisco minus 6.5, Dallas plus 6.5, but the juice was changing as these games sort of go to their conclusion. It's less about the number, right? And as you said, Odell, it's basically whether or not he gets a catch the rest of the game. It is basically what you're betting on when you have 54.5. And you're basically this is saying, does Odell Beckham Jr. gain another yard? Yes is plus 138. No is minus 186. That's what that is. It has little to do with the number of yards now, basically, from here on out. And those are things where, again, as the game goes on, you can find yourself, if a book is offering you both sides of a line and you think it might end up, landing right on that line, you can bet it. And you just have to make the calculation for yourself as whether or not you think, there's a plus EV chance that's going to land on that number. And you have to sort of look at the different prices on both sides.
Yeah, definitely.
We have a kick.
So this is interesting. This is interesting for mine and yours and Austin Gayle's spot, but I do think we're probably only going to see one more touchdown scored here in the fourth quarter. I do think it's probably going to be the Arizona Cardinals. They are going to go for 2, right, to cut this game basically from a 16-point deficit down to 15. It does seem like that is one decision where Cliff Kingsbury is actually correct and maybe a little bit ahead of the curve. He's obviously wanting that information as quickly as possible in order to know if he needs to go for 2 for the remaining spots here. But I think this 47-point total is still going to be a little bit of a sweat. But on the in-game line, we have it at basically 51.5. So they're pricing in kind of a touchdown and a field goal here happening in the fourth quarter. And I think that's just a little bit overstated, even though the plus price is heavily on the under 51.5.
Yeah, for sure. And we're getting these short passes, these kind of dink and dunks, this Murray stuff. I mean, are we getting a live line on any sort of props here? Right now, the live line is 19.5. But with passing props, we are not getting much in the way. Murray right now 173.5. Stafford 182.5. I do think I just want to double dip on Stafford. My under 182.5, minus 114. Let's go with a half a unit on that. We'll go ahead and bet that. because again, I think that this game, the competitive part of this game, I'll take it on DraftKings there at minus 110 at 183.5.
Look at Mike and Ty doing the line shopping for you.
Yeah.
I mean, that is service right there. You
gotta absolutely.
Shout out to Ty and Mike. These guys are grinding it out. I definitely appreciate everything they're doing for us. So.
Yeah. Cool. So we're getting some movement of the football by the Cardinals here. 2nd and 3. Murray hands it to Chase Edmonds. It does look like Chase Edmonds is the preferred back there, just a 5-yard gain. Again, if you like under in this game, it's going to basically come down to this 2-point conversion if you see sort of the Cardinals bleeding out this clock. And again, for the sake of the under, you might, look, for the sake of the under, you really want one more stop here. One more stop really gets you in a good position here.
You need a Kyler Murray sack here, basically, is what you really need for the under. We're not getting it past short left. Eno Benjamin for 13 yards.
So Eno Benjamin looks like the backup running back to Chase Edmonds now that Connor's hurt. The live Connor play is probably
it's almost as much of a lock as what Matthew Stafford over rushing yards right now.
Yeah, Stafford at 16 here. That's a good play. Murray still not. I mean, basically what you need here, Aaron Donald's still on the field for the Rams. This is kind of interesting here. You really need sort of Murray to sort of overshoot somebody and throw an interception, which has been sort of his in his bag of tricks today. Stafford number now at 181.5 as the time ticks away here. Okay, let's. This is certainly, this has some drama here. A catch by Ertz for a first down.
My Ertz over receiving yardage prop. I should have hit that, man. I can't be so scared. Money doesn't make money, that's
correct.
For sure. But that 23.5 receiving yards for Ertz. It was 23.5, 24.5. I can't quite remember. I did not lock it in. Definitely having buyer's remorse right now.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So as we go into next week, I know Taige, we previewed a little bit of what is likely going to be Rams, Tampa Bay. The first two games, Cincinnati plus 3.5, plus 3 depending upon the juice. So it's basically an expensive 3 a cheap 3 or an expensive 3.5 if you like the Bengals. And obviously, if you lay it with the Titans, it's a cheap 3.5 and expensive 3. Total on the game 47. What do you think of this game? Just sort of like as a, I think I have a feeling that if this number lands 3, we're going to like Tennessee with our models. That's an obvious, just like where our model has been all year. What do you think about this game, Ben?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going against Greenlight model, like you definitely said, but I do like Cincinnati. If you can get that hook, add a field goal differential, 3.5, even paying the minus 120 price, I do think that is a pretty decent spot for what I would say is the better quarterback and the entire, better offense basically in this matchup. So if you at all bought into Tennessee not being like a legitimate number 1 seed type contender sort of situation, I think you absolutely have to be pounding the Cincinnati Bengals right now. So that's kind of the side I'm on, and I hesitate only because I do agree with you. I do think Greenlight's probably going to be on Tennessee if we slip back down to that field goal differential, but my money and everything else is basically on Cincinnati right now.
Yeah, I think that where I hesitate is Cincinnati. DJ Reader was out, or Larry Ogunjobi, DJ Reader are two players who are not going to be, in this game, or they're look, they're banged up on the defensive line. Hendrickson also a player who's not healthy. You have a deep incompletion here, so it's 4th and 10 for the Cardinals. This is a big play for the point spread. Not point spread, but for the total on the game here.
Oh, he should have picked that ball, man.
Yeah, for sure. Dante Dion, number 21 on the play there for the Los Angeles Rams. So for me, I kind of like, this is a situation where, again, this is one where I actually believe that if you like Tennessee, lay the points. And if you like the Bengals, take the money line, much like the game that we talked through yesterday. Because I think if the Titans take advantage of a banged-up defensive line for the Bengals, this game's going to be a rompage, right? This game's going to be a rout where Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards and A.J. Brown has 150. They can't get a pass rush on Ryan Tannehill, and it's not as easy. Murray here escaping trying to pick up a first down and does to Christian Kirk, it looks like. Is he over the line of scrimmage there? There's a flag down, and this is a big penalty for.
This is the sweat right here. This is what you're grinding out in a 23-point differential game with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Offensive holding, so it's going to be 4th and 20 from the 37.
We'll take it. Punt it, Cliff. Punt it, Cliff.
2 men held on the same play, of course. Anyway, so a rough one there. So for me, I kind of like. So look. I think if Cincinnati leans into and has a decent defense on Sunday, I think they win. I think if they don't, and I think if the Titans have a great put together a great effort, I think the Titans win the game outright and win the game by multiple scores. So that's an interesting handicap there where the variance is. Let's move on a little bit to San Francisco getting 5.5 against Green Bay. George and I laid the 5.5 with the Packers. It does look like it's moving towards 6. What do you think about this game? It opened at 4.5. We put a pretty sizable bet on our account on 4.5 on Green Bay. It looks like Matt Prater's nails there to make it 31-11 here to cut the lead to 20. Cliff Kingsbury, great field goal attempt by him there for a lot of people, in that one. Again, so
I do think you're on the right side at 4.5, even 5.5. Obviously, the spread is a little bit like no man's land, basically between 4.5, 5.5. Do we move up to 6? Kind of a key number right now. I do lean in Green Bay's direction. I don't think they're probably getting enough credit from the betting market in relation to how much that number 1 seed actually mattered, especially to them, especially with how healthy they're going to be kind of heading out of that bye. So I like them here, -5.5, -6. In saying that, I definitely bought into the Dallas Cowboys yesterday against San Francisco. So my priors could be just a little bit lower on the 49ers than what they even should be right now. But I think it's Green Bay or bust in this matchup here coming up. On that, is that the Saturday night matchup basically happening right now? So
correct. And so this is where, and this is where I was on covers today with Adam Chernoff, great follow on Twitter and a great betting mind. Our power ranking numbers, if you want to throw that up there, Ty, our power rankings, which power our simulations, which are going to be updated tomorrow, and we're going to come out with an article. Ben and I think, added some value to the equation last week, with our preview. We're going to preview the slate after the first round. But essentially, we make Green Bay about 3 points better than the San Francisco 49ers on neutral field going into the game, right? And you can see that up there. They'll adjust a little bit. We talked about this in the game yesterday. San Francisco maybe moves up a little bit, but for the most part, Green Bay's 3 points better than San Francisco on a neutral. So if that's where you're starting, right? Then you have the bye, which I think, depending upon, postseason buys are worth more than regular buys. You also have the fact that San Francisco goes from playing on a Sunday to playing on a Saturday. That to me is worth a point. And then so the question that you have to ask yourself is Green Bay home field advantage in the league. Our friend Robert Greer tweeted this out, 1.5 points this year. I'm going to go over that for Green Bay in the playoffs, especially given the fact that San Francisco, there's research that, academic papers that suggest that if you are in an ambient temperature that is a warm temperature place and you go play in cold temperature place, then you do lose a little bit of power rating strength. So let's put that number at like 3 as home field advantage. Then you're looking at a number that's 7, right? And so even if you want to be a little bit lamer with those numbers, that's where you can arrive at 6.5 or 6, right? If you think bye plus Lambeau home field advantage plus Jimmy Garoppolo's thumb in the cold weather, where the last 2 games he's played with that thumb in a dome or an indoor stadium, that's where I arrive at a number that's more like 6.5. And that's where, I kind of like the Packers laying the points here. Now, we do have to grade the players. We do have to see who's going to play. Green Bay is getting healthier. It does look like San Francisco dodged a bullet yesterday with Fred Warner and Nick Bosa both probably playing this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I do think we're looking at basically like 16, 15 degree temperature basically heading into Lambeau on Saturday night. 13, 12 to 15 mile an hour winds basically. So I think if you get up actually closer to that 20 mile per hour wind threshold, I do think that actually leans a little bit in the San Francisco 49ers direction. Obviously pretty great, run heavy scheme performance, especially in 2021, but they've basically been there since the entirety of Kyle Shanahan's coaching regime. So I think if we see, the wind uptick a little bit more, maybe that's a reason why you could see some buyback on San Francisco. But other than that, I definitely agree with it. I think it's Green Bay or bust up to probably, -6, even 6.5, even though 6 is a pretty important key number here, especially after the the 2-point conversion rules and distance kind of changed here in 2015. So
yeah, Mason Crosby has also not been particularly great this year. Stafford still throwing, and he gets a nice little completion to Cam Akers. Let's end the competitive part of this. Stafford, as he gets a completion here, which gets him to 12 completions. But it's a hold, actually, that's going to call this back. Austin
not good.
Corbett.
That's not good for the under, though. I would say that's for sure. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the nuts here at 2nd and 15 from the 6 would be for the Rams to run the football to Akers and for Akers to pick this up, and for this to be sort of continuing to kind of grind out. Because for the under. Under 49 pregame, right? You're still in a decent spot because you're at 42 right now. And in theory, with 20, they're probably not going to go for 2. So you would at least push with another touchdown. But what you really want is for the Rams to extend this drive a little bit with Cam Akers running the football. And he does get a pretty good run on 2nd down to get the thing to 3rd and 8 from the 13 with under 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Wow, that's a cramp that I have now in my leg.
Oh no, he's cramping up. Get the guy some water. There's too many rows basically happened at the Eric Eager house. So there's a lot of sweat happening.
It was a moderate cramp. Okay, let's go to this next game. So we both you and I are split on Bengals Titans. I think the Titans have a much better chance of covering than some people do. But we both like Green Bay laying 5.5. A little bit of a trap there with the 1 seed, but I do like it there. The second rivalry in the NFC. Let's go back to what's going to end up being a rivalry in the AFC for a long time. I think this is going to be like Cowboys Niners of the 90s in terms of power ranking in the AFC. Buffalo goes on the road. Now this we saw it as 2 for a little bit there. People were buying into Buffalo. Now we're seeing it more, especially on Pinnacle here, more of a flat 2.5 for Buffalo. Last year, this game was a 3, and a lot of people bought into the Buffalo Bills as short underdogs last year at Arrowhead. Now, since that's happened, the Chiefs won that game at Arrowhead, went ahead and lost the Super Bowl by multiple scores. And then lost to the Buffalo Bills by multiple scores. Those were their first two multiple score losses in the history of the Patrick Mahomes era when Patrick Mahomes started. So, Ben, your total on this game, 53 is where I saw it earlier. It has grown out to 55. This is a crazy game. What do you think about this game, Ben?
Yeah, definitely. I do think -2 for Kansas City is definitely the spot. I know you're going to agree with me on that one. But 55-point total, that seems pretty low, right? They had was it 38-24 basically their playoff game last year, so 62 points. Yeah. I do think that is probably pretty reminiscent of where we're going to see this match. Obviously, Buffalo didn't punt, didn't kick a field goal in their wild card matchup. So I like offense here, and I do think that 55, even though it's probably going to be close to the highest total that we have even in the 2021 season, with totals kind of dropping a little bit, especially in the second half of the season. I do still think over 55. Maybe it's a sucker play. I don't know for sure, but I'm definitely only thinking about points here in this particular matchup.
Both of the Stafford overs have hit now with a Cooper Kupp 29-yard completion there. Except for the completions one, but the yardage ones I think are both over there. So we take 2 L's there.
Was it 93? I thought we had 193 for a little while.
I have to look and see where we're at with those. I think now we're going to get some Akers runs though.
That does help the unders at least, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is kind of the perfect setup for unders now because.
Yeah,
so I don't see the Rams punching this one in for a touchdown here, but I guess crazier things have happened. But this is setting up for a vintage Sean McVay punt at the 50-yard line or something, I would say.
Yeah, so Stafford now at 12 completions or so. We got it at 16.5. We also got it at 14.5. We do have. I do think that we're sort of setting up nicely here, at least for Taige's under at 53.5, but also ours at 47.5 or so. Because we are just getting, Stafford is still in the gun though. We're still getting some Stafford, which also the interception prop I'm a little bit worried about. If he is dropping back to throw here, he does throw one out to Kupp. Are we getting
16? There it is. That's the over passing yards for in game. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And Kupp.
So what's Kupp at basically?
5 catches,
61
yards. Yeah, and if you're now worried now that the Rams are going to score a touchdown here more than anything. Right. Stafford looking a little ornery, so maybe we misread that a little bit as far as what the Rams would do with the football here. But
that was a lot of yards after the catch. I mean, that's still like what, a 3 or 4 yard depth of target throw right there. Then that's just Cooper Kupp magic, basically, right?
Yeah. So 31-11 here. Now the Rams are going into sort of a 3 tight end shell here. Michelle a gain of 3. Both running backs.
We'll
look at balance here. Akers and Michelle, 55 yards and 54 yards total for both guys.
That's 17 attempts for Cam Akers. That is impressive. That is not something that I expected whatsoever in this matchup. So it is honestly great to see him back fully healthy. I do think he looks like a very dynamic back right now. Obviously had pretty deep shot from Odell Beckham Jr. on that trick play, but he is definitely a legitimate piece in this offense that I think might have been missing without Darrell Henderson at the running back position. So
yeah, so Henderson is out because of an injury, right? Is that where they are? And so it's just been Michelle. Michelle has really been their guy. Stafford now handing to Michelle again. Loss of 2 to the 34. So, I mean, we're probably going to get one more Stafford throw here. Timeout Arizona. I don't understand what Arizona's doing here. Do they know what this under means to us is basically the question.
They have no idea.
They have no question. Right? And this is, I think, where, when we think about the, what the value of a stream like this is, as, we've basically been able to keep more than 200 people on the stream for a while. Now it's waning a little bit, but, sort of these unders here and sort of these spreads and the live situations we've put ourselves in, even though the competitive portion of this game is over, we can still sort of talk through some of these actual events here that are important for the game. I do not want Stafford throwing again. I would prefer him not put the ball in harm's way for an interception, because if he does, I could go 0-3 on these bets, because Stafford is not going to go over 273.5. It's just mathematically impossible. And the Cardinals.
But you got his under at 16.5 completions at halftime, right? So I mean, or even a little bit before halftime, basically. So that one feels like that's a good spot. I'm sweating out the under 14.5 completions that I locked in at halftime, and that one's pending here for sure. Oh,
Stafford is going to run with the ball, and
more rushing yards. We'll take that.
6 yards.
I knew I should have just locked in Stafford alternate rushing yardage prop basically would have been the play here.
So this is where the issues arise, right? So the Rams are now lining up for a field goal. That would take this game to 45. You basically then are looking for Stafford 22 yards on the ground, 16 more than Murray. I feel like a Stafford more rushing yards than Murray prop would have been 20-1 and would have been a fun play to have. Matt Gayle lining up for a field goal. The Cardinals called their second to last time out here prior to this field goal thinking maybe they have a chance in this game. Matt Gay has been basically money from anywhere all season, and he does hit the field goal there. So it is 34-11. Rams now are ahead here. So we do have to play out the rest of this game here. Stafford does go over the live numbers of, I believe it was like 171.5, or maybe I had 158.5. I can't remember what I put in the sheet here or what we bet. And then there was also the 173, I believe, or 181. But we do have Stafford still under completions here. We still have Connor under rushing yards live, and then we also have the live under, to sweat out here. This is going to be a sweat sort of as we move forward. It does. I don't think Stafford throws another pass the rest of the game, so maybe the interception one also hits at a minus 105. Let's go to the YouTube comments here and see what people think. Manly Kubdik is talking about the Polish middle that some of our totals are on. So we have Taige under 53.5. We have Brad Spielberger at over 50.5. And then we also have Austin Gayle at under 46.5, all live during this game. We have some comments about some of the future games. So the biggest takeaway from this game is that Arizona stinks. I do think that is a fairly good takeaway, and also why we should not, when you think about individual games, you don't really want to overreact to individual games. For example, like the Cardinals beating the Dallas Cowboys. Like that's been like the only game for the Cardinals over the last 2 months that hasn't made sense with respect to any other of them.
Right. I want to bring Arjan onto the live stream. Unfortunately, Justin Herbert couldn't get there in the playoffs. We couldn't get those kneel downs happening at the end of the Las Vegas game, so we can't bring on our other great intern basically from the University of Michigan. But he's a great follow on Twitter as well. You got to get at him a little bit. He's a lot of fun to be on. Does a lot of the contract stuff with Brad Spielberger and everything else, and does a lot of cool composite scores in relation to free agency and cap space and all those other things that Brad does so well. So shout out to Arjun here. We got to get him on Chargers maybe next year here to start the season. So.
Yeah, for sure. And the Chargers obviously breaking hearts. I think that they would have broken. I think they would have been a much harder out for whomever they faced. Had that game ended in a tie, or had they beaten. Had they beaten the Raiders, it would have been a tougher AFC slate, I think, for some of the favorites like Kansas City or Buffalo or Tennessee. Let's talk, Ben. What do you think that the line is? So Taige said that he thinks that Tampa Bay is going to be favored by 3.5. I currently don't see one on Pinnacle. I'm going to look at Bet Online. Let's see also. We do have a number up here. Taige, much sharper than I was on the PFF forecast. Okay, folks, what do we think on the YouTube chat here? What do we think that the line is going to be Tampa Bay versus LA here as we move on to the divisional round of the NFC playoffs, the game that's on Sunday afternoon on NBC? What do we think?
I'm throwing it out 4.5, I think is where we're going to be at right now, so we'll see.
What do we think for the folks in the YouTube chat? I'm going to say Tampa Bay minus 4.5. It said so. Stefan Lockman sort of gives it away, but Bet Online opened -2. It's now 3, which is it's crazy to say. So Taige was even overestimating Tampa a little bit. We get a screen here to Eno Benjamin for
13. Oh no.
Yeah. So we have. This is basically the last drive of the game. For all intents and purposes for some of these things. So the live under, whether or not, so we're at 45 right now. A touchdown is at least 6. So that would get Brad his bet. A lot of Tampa Bay's in that 5 range, some 3, some 3.5. I think Brady should be worth a field goal at least. 4.5. That should have been picked off.
Right.
We have a lot of Tampa Bay's -4. So as far as our YouTube chat is concerned, and we did find one on Bet Online, it is Tampa Bay -3. Money line on that game -150 for Tampa Bay, +130 for the Los Angeles Rams. I think that gets bet up, right? I think Tampa Bay is at least a 3.5 point favorite, because the thing is Tampa Bay was a 1.5 point favorite in LA against the Rams when they met in Week 3, and how much has really changed since then. This has been an impressive performance by the Rams, but I don't think the market's going to respond to just one game against a Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray team that is clearly sort of out to lunch in this game. An incompletion by Murray here and Raheem Morris. I actually think we're in a situation, by the way, with Cliff Kingsbury and some of the sort of behavior he has. If they get a stop here on third down, I think Cliff Kingsbury punts.
God, that would be awesome. That would be
old school.
We gotta like fold that into the model as far like some sort of coaching index for just like complete surrender or something. Because I do think it does honestly matter in a lot of these like end of game type decision making processes. But I would not be surprised either from Cliff Kingsbury's perspective if he does end up punting here on 4th and 10. So we'll see. We gotta get there.
Start,
first, I guess,
think, on Arizona. Maybe it's an offsides. False start Arizona. So 3rd and 15. The Rams Bucks total is 48.5. By the way, we talked about Chiefs a second ago, 55. I'm bet online it's 55.5. Does that thing close 56? And like it's just a decision as to whether or not
close like 57. I think it's going to get bet up here pretty heavily.
Whether or not you're a big enough sicko to take an under in that game.
Right. Who honestly is taking an under in that game, right? Like,
I don't know. The Super Bowl between Tampa and Kansas City closed right around 56, and that went well under. And this season has played much more to the under than last season did, especially with the COVID stuff.
We got our sweat for the under right here, 4th and 9, right? I mean, Christian Kirk 6-yard pass. Here we go. This is it. So
they're not punting. They're just letting the clock tick. This is a kneel down situation if they get
pass incomplete.
Oh, so we have Rams. So Cardinals have just one timeout. I mean, the Rams basically are running this game out.
Right.
Oh, Murray got hit as he throws. Okay. So let's review where we were pregame, Ben.
I can't even remember that far.
Let's put up Ben Brown's pregame bets, and let's see where we're at here.
What happened to Antoine Wesley? That is the question, right? So Kupp, disaster. Stafford, thank you. Wesley did not get there for us, unfortunately. Then Stafford, I only took that to go against Eric on his birthday, and I knew that as long as I took it, it was going to go under for Eric. So that was just me trying to be a friend, basically. Thankfully, we got a lot of the in-game bets home, but it was a little dicey from the pregame.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't put your unit size there, but like obviously, I think the first 3 you were putting a full unit, the next 2 not. But so let's go to mine here. And I had Cardinals plus 4.5. So I'm 1 and 3 as well because I'm going to get this Stafford under 0.5 interceptions. So not quite as good. But if we do go to some of the live numbers we have had here. Now, Stafford's still in this game. They handed it to Sony Michel. So over 10 points the first quarter didn't hit. I had a live one that pushed over 7. Stafford passing yards is not going to hit. Stafford under interceptions is going to hit. And Cardinals plus 4.5. A good closing line value is not going to hit there for us, but we will. It does look like, well, we'll see. I mean, we do get Michelle for 3 more yards. We had 2 Stafford passing yards, ones that did not hit. Well, we have a Stafford under completions. We have a Connor under rushing yards, and we have in-game under, which we've popped a couple times. So I do think
we got a Cam Akers over early on as well. I think at 53.5, which barely cleared by the end of it, but he was up to like 85.5 at certain points in the in-game rushing yard prop number. So that was decent. I feel like that's kind of the similar thing that's happened last year. It's honestly kind of been the similar narrative for my entire betting season so far here in 2021. It's been kind of hit or miss from a pregame perspective, but in-game has kind of been definitely keeping us afloat. And then the occasional, same game parlay and some other spots that you can definitely take advantage of if you're just kind of, trying to read between the lines in a lot of spots. And I do think that is probably, the way to take advantage of the betting market here as we move forward, and the game's gonna kind of get more efficient in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
so.
and like I think the whole time, I mean, I think if you're Brad Spielberger, you take over 50.5. That's a pretty solid play, but ultimately it does look like actually look, we're at 2-minute warning here. The Rams do still have to pick up a first down. Like this is not this is not over, but it's also not over. Right, like that's something you have to consider here. We do get a 3rd and 4. You could also have the Rams just bust a touchdown run here, which we see in college football all the time. But kudos to anybody who took Rams second half, which was minus a half a point. The Cardinals, by the way, both teams went over their second half total. Cardinals over 10.5, and they got 11, interestingly. And the Rams over 10.5, I believe. Where are they at right now? 13. So both teams went over their second half total. Just to sort of review, we didn't take anything at halftime, but we did review what those numbers ended up being. Would I bet Stafford under interception prop again? So let's bring up the YouTube again. Ben Jammin, thank you for wishing me a happy birthday. I have felt every bit. Now that I'm on, if you count the PFF forecast, almost 7.5 hours and the PFF live show on Saturday, almost 9 hours of live television here. I feel every bit 36 years old. I will say that as much. But thank you, Ben, for the happy birthday there. Would I bet Stafford under interceptions next week? I don't know if I have that in me anymore. We'll have, again, we're going to decide which games we want next week. Honestly, we can't take Rams versus Tampa Bay, but we can take sort of any other game. Sort of let us know in the chat which games you want to see the most of as well. Jake Funk tackled for a loss here, and I do think this is where we might lose this under here because the Rams might kick a field goal here. Well, we might lose. We might lose the first under.
Yeah. Are they really kicking a field goal here?
Well, it's from
23,
they're
26.
It's a 50-plus yarder.
36, 51.
It does look like Stafford's staying out there.
Why is Funk taking dives there on 3rd and 4? I mean.
Well, I think we're gonna look, and again, this is the sweat that you can only get betting these games because this game right now does not matter. But I do think and they are going to take Stafford off the field here. Delay a game declined. The delay a game thing means that this is probably going to be a punt on behalf.
Hopefully. I mean, if they would have not declined it, it would have definitely been a punt, right? But he's not going to sling it out there now.
Yeah, I don't know. See, again, this is why this is adding stress to a game that is a 23-point game. This is why you like sports betting.
That's been over for basically since halftime or whatever, right? I mean, there's been like nothing else happening, but
maybe Taige coming in late is going to be the only one that gets their under to hit. Although, again, so we are going to get a Los Angeles Rams punt. I do wonder, though, so this is the way I see it. If you get a punt here, a surrender, a non-kicking situation for the Rams, and this punt's out of bounds at the 9-yard line, do you get the Cardinals to cough the dogs? Do the Cardinals just run a couple draw plays, hopefully not to James Conner, game's over, we go into offseason. Again, this is I think what the kids call coping. I'm coping with this idea that I'm going to have to grind out this other drive for the Cardinals. But here's one.
I think we're definitely. I mean, if you want to bet on off as far as if we're going to have to grind out this drive, we are definitely going to have to grind out this drive if you want to bet it, because that's the side.
Murray is out. So the Murray is out of the game. It looks like Colt McCoy.
Is he really?
Yeah, Murray is helmet off on the sideline.
Holy shit!
It's the Colt McCoy is in the shotgun by himself. Oh no, he's got Eno Benjamin next to him. Let's get a nice little handoff to Eno Benjamin. There we go. Good tackle. Okay. All right.
They did honestly fucking call out the dogs. I cannot believe it.
No, you can though, because
king shit.
Yeah, king shit. But also, the Rams punted there, right? The Rams punting there was big because it showed Cliff, look, we're not going to make the score any worse. How about you not make the score any worse? Okay.
Right.
And we do get a Eno Benjamin tackle. We see 3 zeros. And the live unders all hit. the James Conner under hits, the Matthew Stafford completions hits, your Sony Michel over hits, and most of the bad bets we made pregame are made up for, with the live stuff. Folks, we really appreciate you guys coming onto the stream and watching us degenerate bet this game. I'm sorry that it wasn't quite as good of a game as yesterday's game with Dallas and San Francisco, nor did it have the drama. It did have some drama at the end. Certainly drama at the end, but nowhere near the drama yesterday. We're going to do this again next week, either 1 or 2 games, one possibly on Saturday, one possibly on Sunday. We want your feedback as well, so obviously if you can drop some comments in the YouTube channel or email us as well. But we really sincerely appreciate you coming and watching our live watch along to this game. The Rams winning 34-11 over the Arizona Cardinals. For Ben Brown, this has been Eric Eager. Thank you. This has been brought to you by PFF.